He's like, and he mentions this is a chameleon.
A chameleon. I used to say chimera when I was a kid.
We all did, though. Yeah, but we all
it was chimera.
Of course.
And then it's really funny is because then people say Cerebus, but I think it's Carabus. I'm not sure. I have to talk. I have Greek friends who corrected my pronunciation of Nike to Nike, which is the way it's supposed to be pronounced in Greek, which is Nike, the goddess of.
I don't know that I Carabus.
I don't know that Carabus either, but I don't care about what you think of us. Hey there, hi there, ho there. How y'all doing tonight? We're talking linguistics. Apparently, that's going to be our topic for the night, as opposed to what our role-playing GM goals are for 2024. No, that's what we're here for. We're here to talk GM goals for 2024. So, I'd like to introduce these people, but they need no introduction. So, anyway, what would be our first point of topic? I guess go ahead and introduce yourselves. Yeah, spotty bastards.
Wait, we're doing that?
Yeah, you're doing it.
Oh, okay. Hi, I'm Brian. I'm from Gaming with ADHD. I talk games and stuff and random bits of interest.
Really good at introducing himself too, apparently.
But
just a master of introductions there.
And I will also say that I am, an aspiring game master. I'm aspiring to do it.
Really, you're not aspirating or something?
Died a fired bear.
Aspirating? You're aspirating. You're an aspirating game master.
Something like that, yes.
I'm mocking Brian because earlier today on his stream talking about Palladium, he mentioned the alignment of aberrant, because apparently it was aberrant for him to take the right word, which is aberrant. Therefore, never played a game by White Wolf. Hey, kids, what are we going to play tonight? Aberrant. But we wanted to play superheroes. Cody.
Yo, I'm GM Cody, or just Cody as people call me. I've got a tiny little YouTube channel where I talk about old games I love that nobody else loves anymore.
I love games. Come on, dude. No? You could be like in the next Powers movie?
Yeah.
No, but
Gold member.
He'd be game member.
Gold member.
That'd be in the next Austin Powers movie. And he just walks in. I love game. All right, you know what? My comedy's fucking hilarious, and you all just have aberrant tastes. Len, you're up.
So when Bear goes off on one of his tangents, will we be experiencing a bear rant this evening? Sounds like it.
Brian's pronouncing it'll be a B rant.
Hi, my name is Len. First of all, hey to everybody in the chat. Thank you for watching. Hi, guys. Happy New Year. It is appropriate that we were talking about linguistics when this began, since today is the birthday of J.R.R. Tolkien, the professor, and also of Stan Lee, right? Apparently.
No, Stanley was yesterday. Stanley was January 1st.
All righty. And I designed some games and play games, and somehow found myself on this channel.
Here's what happened. You guys want to know how this happened? I will explain the origin of Bear and Len's friendship. Bear had a copy of the Saga superhero game that he needed to sell for some money because things were tight and Bear needed cash. So Bear went into a room and said, hey, I'm selling this for 200 beans, and not cats, but, dineros. And this guy said, Len goes, hey, I'm looking for that. I make a deal and maybe we could trade a thing. And then we did the deal and we traded a thing. And I got a copy of a game from him called.
I don't even remember which one it was.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Black Star.
No, it was some Kickstarter he had backed. So we made the deal. He got the better end of it. That's for sure. And we became friends. Isn't that crazy? That's crazy.
Becoming friends.
Brian and Cody, on the other hand, I just went in their channels. Well, your channels are cool. You should come on the 4-Color Cafe. And they were like, okay. And they came. And now they're here. And I can't get rid of them. They're like fucking cockroaches.
You're welcome.
Yeah, you're the worst. Cody just comes by himself. You bring other people to my world.
I bring the sound effects. She's upstairs.
Only one of them nights, huh? All right. Yes, we became friends after having a play date and trading games, Dale. Also, whose channel are you in? Not in mine. Oh, Dale's abandoned me for one of you. Look at that.
Gotta be Cody because he's not in
He's
mine.
in my channel.
Oh, Sarah says I came with Cody. Yeah, but you didn't. There's a difference, Sarah. You were a gamer suggested for a game I was running. Brian brings YouTubers. Hey Bear, can I have this person show up? Hey Bear, this guy's really cool. You should talk to this guy.
No. It was Bear's like, hey, I'm gonna take a couple weeks off.
Oh, here we go.
Okay. But
Let's
I
see this.
don't want to
Hang
stop
on,
doing
hang
the
on, wait.
$4
I
cafe.
gotta do some 4D gaming for you here. I watched a video on it today. Ready? Okay.
No. What?
You're telling the sad story of how this all came
It's not
about.
how is this a sad story? This is an
Oh,
awesome
it was fun
story.
fucking with you tonight.
I love our group. Like
It's so tasty. It must be fattening.
but yeah, you decided to abandon the cafe for a couple of weeks.
I didn't abandon it. Jesus Christ! A man takes a vacation. He's abandoning. You
went out to get a pack of cigarettes, and we
Is that
didn't
what
see you
happened,
for a
Brian?
while.
Is that what it is? Dad went to get cigarettes, and you're just holding all that anger inside.
No, Dad and Mom are still together and live in the same house. I am the most milquetoast of all of us, I think. But anyways, but you were gone, and it's like, we need to fill it in and get a couple extra people. So that's how I did it. I regret nothing.
I regret that you can't have the delicious taste of hot caffeine.
That's because
as the real Christian God intended it.
No, that's because God intended it to be cold and carbonated.
Did he though?
Yes, he did.
I don't know. I would not put Coca-Cola next to God personally. That's blasphemous in my mind. But you do you. You do you.
I'm not going to put Coca-Cola next to him either. That's gross.
Well, Asiquathakilinga. Okay. Apparently, Wayne's World of Science and Technology is having a stroke, so that's working out well. I get it. It's Latin, but I don't speak Latin. I only speak English and French and enough Spanish to get my face slapped.
I was
And
saying,
not Russian.
my
face slapped.
Portuguese
No,
is barely
I do
possible.
think Sarah can speak Latin. Possibly.
Oh, Sarah, can you translate this for us, please? And then there's going to be a second one because apparently, there we go. Ha ha ha! Not a fanboy. Sarah's mean. Sarah, quote this or translate this, please. What did you do? How did you turn on the Xbox? What the fuck, cat?
Maybe the cat's trying to play. Let him play.
No, he just bumped his ass against the sensor, so it went.
That's how I turned it on.
That's how you turn.
Hey, Hungar, what's up, man? A tu brute? Sarah, what does it mean? Come on. Quit your joking. We want to know. And then there's something about a fabulous gazebo with Eric and the narrator. I don't know what that is. Okay, I can't copy paste out of StreamYard, so you Google it. Make yourself useful. Fucking people tonight. Oh my God. Cody, she took Latin in the 9th grade. Why are you throwing her under the bus?
I just remember
like
her taking Latin.
Et tu, Cody? Et tu? E pluribus dicum? There we go. All right. Enough shenanigans. Wayne's World of Science and Technology. I'm going to ignore you now since you're just being weird. But that's one of my GM goals for 2024. Ignore Wayne. So here we are, and the subject du jour is GM goals for 2024. And I know Brian's is going to be finally run a game, and then that's all he's going to have to contribute to the conversation tonight. So we might as well get out of the way. Brian, what are your GM goals for 2024?
I want to. I want to. Well, it's not just finally run a game. I'm still trying to finalize what I want to do for my Rifts one shot. I've actually, as I was thinking about it earlier. I guess last week. Holy crap! Last year was just last week. But I actually want to. I know, right? I actually want to do 4 this year. Is kind of my goal. Basically, Len's.
Bam, Len. Shot from Dale at you.
But I want to do at least 4 one-shots. All set in Rifts. Maybe do one, in like Shadowrun or something. But also just I want to read more. Understand more backgrounds, more different game systems, different ideas. So that's my main GM goal this year is start doing it and getting some practice under my belt. I expect the first games to be horrible. Everybody keeps telling me otherwise. Well, no, but it like I was, what was it? Oh, it was somebody that was like put up a painted miniature and they're like, well, this is kind of horrible. And I'm like, yeah, but you put paint on the miniature, so that's fine. You can't get better if you don't get started. So I have to
somehow that advice just Tefloned right off your blade of armor, and now you're doubting yourself and digging your own hole.
Oh, I absolutely doubt myself. Yeah. That's not going to change, but I do know that I need to get, like, I cannot get better and be bad instead of horrible.
Change of topic.
If I don't,
why the fuck does imposter syndrome run rampant through our community? What is that about?
Because our community is generally full of intelligent people. And folks who are,
I would say,
compared to the average. How about this? Compare to take an average cross section of gamers and an average cross section of folk in general, and I will absolutely bet that the numbers skew slightly higher. But unfortunately,
this just in, Len says most of the population stupid and not worth his time. Film at 11.
The brighter you are, the more likely you are to question yourself. So there you go.
So here's the thing. I agree to a certain extent. The stupid are very confident in everything they do, and the intelligent doubt themselves constantly because they figure they must be missing something, right? And I kind of sometimes envy the ignorance of just getting shit done and going, I made a thing here, as opposed to, if I can't release it, I can't show it to people. No. Yes, Len, that doesn't speak well of you, sir. Hungar says he's a damn genius. It's a damn big brain underneath that Hungar hat. Damn big. All right. Well, Brian, I look forward to your efforts in game mastering in 2024. I'm actually hoping to play in one of your Rifts games, unless Cody and Len both play Juicers, and then I'm not playing in one of your Rifts games because you denied me Glitter Boy, you denied me Dragon, there was another one you denied me. I'm like, man, why can't I play any of the fun stuff, but they get to play the fun stuff? I was really, really heartbroken by that. You're already a GM. Look at you denying players fun.
You've earned your first star.
Yeah, you get your first GM card right there with that. All right, Cody, the imposter to my side aside, what are your GM goals for 2024?
Well, I think first off, I would like to get a face-to-face group back together. That would be my first goal.
They feed me pizza.
Yeah, they do feed me pizza and sometimes barbecue. So, I would like to get a face-to-face group back together because it's been too long. But it is pretty hard to find like-minded individuals, and I've struggled with it for quite a few years now. So hopefully I can find some people this year, and we can get a regular, at least bi-weekly game going face-to-face at a real table with some real dice and some real camaraderie. And I really miss that. Number two, I would like to run another long-running campaign because I have a really bad habit of my campaigns running pretty short. And I think we could all fist bump on that one. But my goal is like this D&D campaign I'm running right now. That is the one that I want to just keep running as long as I can and keep it going.
See, that breaks my heart because I was like, whatever your next campaign was, I was going to make the effort to be a player in it this time. But now you're telling me it's the game that I chose to bow out of to make room for someone else. And now I'm heartbroken.
Well, hold on. You didn't get part 3. Part 3. Part 3. Since we've been, everybody's been excited about Palladium again, which is awesome because I thought Palladium was just lost to the dustbins of time. And so, of course, I've been happily, busting out my Palladium books and reading them. And I'm definitely going to run a Rifts campaign.
But wait, Brian's going to be running Rifts. I'm confused. I can't play Rifts twice.
Rifts is kind of a big world. I think you can do a lot with it.
Okay. If you say so, Brian, I'll believe you.
Well, if Brian said he's running a one shot. Now, if he's running a campaign, I will step aside gladly, and I'll just play a juicer, no problem.
We'll say linked one shots is what Brian's plans are.
Okay, mini campaign.
Cody can have the long running, ongoing game.
How is it you say a bear rant, but you can pronounce palladium properly? Palladium is what I would expect from you.
I don't know.
Are you from Arizona originally?
Yes.
It says a lot about your education system. All right, enough picking on Brian for one night, as tasty as it is. Len, what are your GMing goals for 2024?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm fortunate enough, I'm blessed enough to be able to have a face-to-face game that we play. So I'm running the face-to-face game right now, and it is a long-running campaign. And I mean, maybe my goal is to at some point wind it down, because there is a place where the story's going. And at least two of the players are like, I'm never going to allow you to stop running this game. So I would love to be able to actually wrap the game and kind of move on to something else. But have
you tried Palladium?
Sorry?
Have you tried playing Palladium?
But obviously I'm not going to just slam it shut. I'm going to either wait till they die or fall to where the narrative is going. So we'll see where that goes. So just continue running that.
Okay. How many games are you going to write this year?
Funny enough, I was thinking about that too. And I don't want to make any promises. I do have stuff that I'm working on right now, one that's nearing completion, one that I'm fiddling with, but I sort of do better just letting the spirit move me, because when it does, that's when I just sort of pour stuff out.
So here's the thing. You don't want to make promises because you'll over deliver like usual. I'm going to write one game this year, 10 games later.
There is, let me just say this. There is a revisit of something involving there and Hack again. There's a revisit of By This Axe I Hack, the sort of that needs to be tightened and polished. There is something that is farther away for there and Hack again. There is another Black Star supplement that is fairly far along. And
Mechastar?
No, not Mechastar, but there is a bunch of stuff in it. Anyway, so we'll see where that goes. But anyway, so that's mostly it involves the writing, and we'll see where it goes.
Okay, that's fair. That's very fair, actually. Brian, I think you should forget Riffs. You should run Shadowrun using Palladium system. Cody.
No, that's actually a question that I had posed.
I saw a post somewhere where someone was asking that question. How would you run Shadowrun using Palladium?
Oh my gosh, Barry, you're such a troll today.
Oh, I'm sorry. Welcome to what it feels like all the time I'm with you assholes. Because this is what you guys do to me. Non-stop.
Look, I was actually going to try converting Palladium over to a 2D12 system, but I think that's going a little excessive this year. No, and that's actually one thing that I was kind of looking at is how would it be possible? Because one of the interesting things about Palladium is that you have fantasy with all your elves and orcs and dwarves and whatnot. You have your high tech with robots and samurai. I mean, you can do pretty much everything. You've got ninjas and super spies, heroes unlimited. You can put everything together, and if you wanted to run a Shadowrun game, you pretty much could, and not have to really convert everything. You'd have to come up with like an equivalency list, like say a juicer for a street samurai, or
hyper obsessing about something. That doesn't sound like you at all. Just saying. Sounds like a bell.
It's not. It's not so much hyper obsessing as hyper focusing and then getting to that like 75% mark and blah. Not
seems to me like
through.
Hungar would really love to play in your Palladium Shadowrun game. As he stated earlier, he's been trying to get in one of our games.
I don't know. I'm not there yet.
You have no idea. A year of blah 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 bastardhood, blah 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 heroic from this guy, and this is just like sweet revenge. Oh yeah. Good night, Chris. Take care. Dale has suggested what you should do: boldly hack, and then where no one has hacked before. But I think that's a great idea. I think
that's a great name.
Very interested in playing a supplement for Blackstar called To Boldly Hack.
I am going to volunteer something here about Brian.
Uh-oh.
I mean, and his.
Oh God, we're defending Brian. We all pick on Bear, but now we'll defend Brian. Okay. Papa Squat, champ. You're about to get a life lesson.
Yeah. Whether it's something I've written or something you find on your own, I might suggest you pick a simple player-facing game for your first thing to run, for the simple fact that it puts less on your plate. I would suggest play something simple.
Yeah, like a Blackstar.
Honestly, yeah. I mean, any of my stuff you can have. Just let me know. But even there's lots of other stuff you can find out there. Whatever it is, I would pick something light and simple, old school essentials or whatever. But or if you want to do fantasy, you could do Traveler. But I would suggest something simple. Yeah, sure. Like Dale says, I don't know, maybe Blackstar. Absolutely, you can do that.
Like I just said that 3 sentences ago. Hey, Hungar, I must hate you because I'm trying to get you into Brian's game. What an asshole I am for trying. Jeez.
So anyway, yeah, the suggestion is, there's lots of games we're talking about, like Shadowrun or like Palladium or whatever, but they do have a bit of technical burden on the game master. And you, for no reason that I can understand, seem hesitant about running a game. So at the very least, maybe look at something that just takes a lot of the rules, weight, and prep, for that matter, off of you. It's just a thought.
I'm going to counter with, I believe in you, Brian.
No, I think
I know if you set your mind to it, champ, you can overcome your special needs and achieve anything, Rudy. I don't doubt you, buddy.
Oh yeah, I got no response to that.
All right, yes. Apparently, I'm full of pith and vinegar tonight, so I'll be enjoying that.
Just a scotch.
Whoa! You're thinking about taking some time away. See, this is how I love about Hungar. It's like we're having a conversation. Hungar's like, I think we should be talking about me now. So Hungar gives us something to talk about. Why are you thinking about taking away some time away from YouTube, Hungar? Are you not satisfied with what's going on, man?
It's because of me, isn't it?
Well, pretty much, but that's neither here nor there at this point. Okay, I'm gonna beat the shit out of this monitor. Thank you, Dell.
What about you, Bear?
What about me? Well, I'm going to be running a streamer's Palladium fantasy game once a month for a while, with an interesting cast of characters. I'm going to be continuing my home game at the table, which is fun. I've got Heroic coming out going to Backer Kit in February, so that's going to be all my creative focus outside of running games is going to be on that. I'm going to keep running my Star Trek games until the nacelles fall off and I get tired of running Star Trek. Though after GM Cody's character's date last night, apparently it's not running out of steam anytime soon. And that's about it for me. I don't plan long term as a general rule. I just go with where the mood takes me and where the sort of the flow is going. And the flow went to Palladium, and I'm absolutely loving it, despite its desperate need of reorganization. Oh, it's so chaotic.
Well, I mean, that was kind of my point with my video today. Is like I literally went into thinking, let's just kind of compare and contrast all the different character creation instructions in the different Palladium games. dear Lord, they're all different.
It was pretty aberrant. Yeah.
Yes, it was. Like, and it's amazing because
this is
like,
revenge for every time you tell me how to pronounce that fucking waterfall in Brazil, Brian. Just in case you're
Iguaçu.
wondering. That's what this is for. This is revenge for that.
Iguaçu.
Yeah,
Iguana soup. I've never had iguana soup. Did they make that in Florida, Len?
Probably.
You better believe they do, by the way.
Delicious, nutritious, tastes just like chicken.
Cubanos, you know how we go.
When it gets cold, they fall out of the trees. So
Oye, Mexico, you make a good iguana soup. Brian, I love you like a play cousin, but sometimes I gotta.
You're fine, Bear.
You've been poking the bear a little bit hard lately. You've been really getting away with murder, so.
I apologized for it the other day.
So why don't you run? So Rifts is really what you want to run, or is there something else you look? Forget all the Palladium hype that's going on and all the chaos. Cody, be quiet. And just look into your heart, that dark little place inside your soul.
The dark little
place. Calling to you.
What do you really want to run?
There's nothing else.
Tapao, quiet.
No, that's the catch. I don't.
It's not Tapao. Who does look into your heart? Roxette. It's Roxette.
I honestly don't have an answer for that because it's not like I have 30 years of history of, I've been playing this game all the time for 30 years.
50 years of innovation.
50 years of innovation. I don't have like there are settings and games that I'm interested in, but none of them just have that. Oh, this is what I have to play. I want to play something sci-fi. Dale's
okay. Sci-fi, number one. What's your favorite sci-fi game currently? If you looked at all the sci-fi games you've read and looked at, which one rustles your jammies?
Star Trek Adventures, because I get to play in it.
Okay. Outside of Star Trek Adventures, you
no, but Bear, literally that like I am having so much fun with it because as I said somewhere the other day, or no, it was in Coffee with Bear the other morning. Like forever, I have wanted to play role-playing games with my friends, but it's always been I have to organize it, I have to run it. Nobody is really as committed to it as I am, and so getting into this group and getting invited into Star Trek Adventures. That's why I'm having so much fun with it because I get to what?
The game Made?
I have no idea what that is. Never heard
of it. I guess something new to learn.
Maybe that's for the best.
So that's the thing is I get to play in a game with my friends. Yes, it's online, but it is with people who have literally become friends. Okay. So I could play like I always say, fantasy is not necessarily what I gravitate to, but like Len said, hey, I'd like to run a one shot of There and Hack Again. I'm like, great, I will absolutely play it because again, it's involving my friends. Sure. So why have I gravitated towards Rifts or Shadowrun? I like the settings. They are.
We've made some ground here. Look at that. You've given me two things that you like: Rifts and Shadowrun. Okay. Now, if the house is on fire, the family's safe. Even the Void Cat is safe. But you can only save one of those two books, Rifts or Shadowrun. Which one are you saving?
Probably Rifts.
All right, then you're running Rifts.
That's kind of why.
We wanted to make sure you were committed, Brian. And if you'll let Shadowrun burn, you made the right choice. Because Brian, Shadowrun should fucking burn.
Brian, I have one question. If all the games are there, are you saving either of those, or are you saving a different game completely? You're saving BattleTech, aren't you?
It's not a role-playing game.
That's okay. So, asking the question.
No, that's actually a really interesting question. But the funny thing is, I would probably not save BattleTech.
Okay.
Because I think it could be replicated a lot easier. Like when I was a kid, like what if you have your record sheets and the charts, That's all you need. Like literally, that's how I got into the game. Is I borrowed a friend's book, photocopied the charts, and that's all I had for
The reason,
a
just
year
so
or
you
so.
know, the reason I asked that is if you like BattleTech and you like the BattleTech world and you're already familiar with the world, you could do a one shot of something occurring in the BattleTech world where the kids are out of their mechs. And the only reason I throw that out is because there's no magic in that. There's no, or if there is, I don't believe there's magic. I don't believe there's psychic powers. I don't believe there's any of that funky hokum to make the game more complex.
But who wants to play BattleTech without the big stompy robots?
If you like the world, you may. I mean, I'd leave that to you. If not, then never mind.
Yeah, no, it's one of the things that I've quote unquote had issues with forever. Like it's cool, but you're a mech pilot. You can't, get like to do anything that you would normally do in a role playing game. You usually have to get out of the big stompy robot.
Sure.
So, then it kind of, it's like, I'm going to play the mech warrior. Oh, all of my skills or everything is completely worthless because I'm not a mech warrior, because we have to infiltrate the factory or whatever.
See, now I want to see like a 45-ton mech tiptoeing into a factory.
It's not really true though. Have you ever read any of the BattleTech novels? Because they're most of the action is outside the mechs, and they're doing all kinds of stuff. Mech warriors are like very capable people, right? They're like knights in the future.
And the Rogue Squadron and any sort of fiction that involves pilots of any kind, you spend some time within, but there's certainly quite a bit that happens outside of the vehicles. And so jumping on what Cody says, I think there's enough context for perhaps a one shot. And the point here was just, again, the point here was just simple setting for your first outing. That was all.
Yeah, no.
Percival and his lovely wife Ruby have hit upon the solution for you. Just saying.
I mean, yeah.
I bet there are conversions out there somewhere.
I will say this. I agree with Lynn to a degree that starting off with a simpler system and setting would be recommended. You don't have to though. If you want to dive head on, go for it.
Just rip the Band-Aid off.
But I do agree with Lynn to an extent, and Rifts is probably the worst in that regards in every measure, because the setting is fucking nuts. It's not easy to run, and it's kind of a mess rules wise. Yeah, I mean it takes some system mastery to really run it effectively.
Or a complete lack of caring.
Well, honestly, here's my biggest problem. My biggest problem is that I feel I have a lack of creativity, and so I think the game would be boring. That's honestly my biggest concern.
I disagree. Like, you don't have to be, I say this all the time, you don't really have to be that creative. Most of us aren't. We just steal shit from everywhere else. Even it can be the simplest thing. It doesn't matter if you set up the game right, you run the game right, and you let the players really take the forefront, they're going to have fun. I mean, let me give you an example. Like Bears game last night. We were just sitting there having a psychiatry session. There's nothing. I mean, I'm just using that as an example. There wasn't anything crazy going on, right? There wasn't like some. Yeah, I mean, there could have been or whatever, but really, the game was. We were just sitting there, literally having like a therapy session. But that was like one of the best role playing sessions I've had in a long time, right? That was like one of the best games I've played in a long time. So you don't have to do something crazy over the top. You don't have to have some. You're not writing a fucking movie here,
I am. Brian, all I'm going to say is that if you ran Shadowrun, I'd play.
I would totally play Shadowrun. I love Shadowrun.
But I call dibs on the Street Samurai.
I would play in a heartbeat. I don't care what.
No, and that is one of the best parts about this group. I know that if I said I would like to run this, I'd have too many people saying I want to play in the game.
Welcome to hour 2 of Brian's GMing intervention. If you're just joining us, we've narrowed down that Brian wants to run something, and that he would let Shadowrun burn if the house was on fire.
I honestly think Shadowrun is an easier game to run, even though the rules are just as complex as Palladium, the setting is a lot easier than Rifts because there's always something to do. Like
Right.
it's already set up for you, and it's very easy to be like, okay, here's the next mission. Go get this, go to this point, break into this place. Like it's very easy to come up with stuff in Shadowrun. A lot easier than Rifts, I believe.
don't disagree with Cody at all, but if you're actually playing Shadowrun with any of the Shadowrun games, each of those games is layers of systems and subsystems that don't necessarily interface perfectly smoothly, and as such, I don't know.
Well,
Hey,
I would
hey,
say,
Cody, that's how that feels, by the way, when Len goes, I don't necessarily disagree with you, but I'm going to disagree with you. That's
well,
how it feels.
as somebody
If
that's
you're
ran
wondering.
a lot of Shadowrun, you forget this is like my second favorite role playing game, even though I shit on it all the time. I have found a way. I have found a way to really run Shadowrun kind of smoothly, and the way to do that is just ignore all those fucking subsystems and just make some rolls and go with it. Because the core system of Shadowrun is great. It's when you start diving into the weeds of all the subsystems that it starts breaking down. But if you just eliminate all that crap and just make some rolls and have some fun, it works great.
The core mechanics are terrific. Wait, which edition would you recommend he run for us?
Oh, his favorite.
It'd be Sixth World. So
They-
it's not.
they're so cool.
Which
They're
edition?
so cool. It's not even an
Yes.
edition. It's
No, they
the world.
literally called 6th edition Sixth World. Shadowrun Sixth World Edition, because
Gotcha.
it's the Sixth World, it's the 6th edition. They were just trying to be cute. I don't know. I like it. It would be that one because that's what's current. And that's actually what I have. I mean, I have a bunch of like the PDFs, but
It is the most streamlined edition, from what I understand.
It
It's the
is.
most streamlined
I've-
edition, and
I've played a couple of one shots, and like I'll be honest, I don't know what people complain about. Like most people, it seems to come down to the same complaint about Palladium is poor editing.
My complaints with 6th edition are really just setting and tone, not necessarily this. I think the game system's fine. Like I played 6th edition when it first came out. I have no problem with it. I prefer the older setting. I like the 1980s vision of the future more than the
pink
modern
mohawk.
vision of the future.
I
The
love
pink
you
mohawk
so-
versus the black trench coat.
Mhm. Absolutely. I think Shadowrun, like that's where Shadowrun really belongs. That's where it really shines, is in that vision of the future. But you do what you want. Like I like Shadowrun. I would totally play a 6th edition Shadowrun game.
I want to play Street Samurai. And
All right,
I'll even
well, then
play
I'll-
a stupid Orc Street Samurai or whatever the hell you play in Shadowrun.
You can play whatever kind of Street Samurai you want, Bear.
Cool. I want to play Len as a Street Samurai.
Len is a Street Samurai.
So what we're going to do is, and what I want you to understand is that in this situation, I would normally take out my weapons and shoot you, but it is important for you to understand that I don't think that shooting you would be the best choice at this time. Len impersonation. I like it.
Excellent.
Was that Jerry Seinfeld or was that Lyd Pivot?
I don't think shooting you would be a good
Yeah.
idea. What's the deal with Deckers? They're in the net. They're in the real world.
Excuse me
It makes
one
no
moment.
sense. So, anywho, now that we're done intervening on your behalf, family values. You're out of the club, Len. No family values here, sir. Anyway, now that we've intervened enough on you, you have much to think about, and I'm sure you will contemplate it on the Tree of Woe. Yes?
Real quick, insert name here says they're giving me the opening to run that GURPS Pokemon game I've always dreamt
I'm
of.
out. It's amazing how you can go from saying something really nice like this, which I thought was a very nice statement overall. I was like, wow, the insert name here, INH, said something really, really nice, to absolute pure mental drivel like this. Like, you're a multifaceted fellow, insert name here. The name I insert is Wackadoodle. Okay. So, Brian, you have something to think about.
Yes.
And we're waiting to hear from you. No rush. In your own
No
time.
pressure.
No, none. Zero. When you're ready. Hey, Cody, what's your Rifts campaign going to be about?
Why would I just tell you the whole story?
Oh,
I will tell you that I'm probably going to base it in the. I think it'd be interesting to run a Rifts campaign in the South, maybe here in Tennessee, where there's not a lot of setting material, or or just in the whole like Southeast region in general, because there's not a whole lot of details about this region. So I'm kind of free to make a lot of shit up, and I kind of like that idea. And also, in the Rifts, what is explained in Rifts is this region is very primitive, and there's a lot of wilderness, and so it would be really interesting to see kind of like a hillbilly kind of Mad Max style thing going on, right? With all kinds of crazy DBs in the dark woods, and I could use a lot of Southern folklore and legend and things like that, but you'd also still have all this high-tech nonsense. But at the same time, it would be like hard to get resources and things. You can't just go to any city and buy, restock on missiles and all that kind of thing. So I think it'd be a really interesting, an interesting place to set a Rifts game.
We're going to be hunting some Kentucky goblins.
Yeah, indeed.
I'm in. I'm going to hunt some Kentucky goblins. Maybe some Kentucky goblin boots. I'm in, but I'm going to play Hungar.
That would be awesome.
My character is going to be Hungar. I do what I want, bitches, and then I'll die. That's some mega damage.
Oh, I will make an OCC just for Hungar.
It's good.
Starvarian.
The Starvarian. All right. Well, that's interesting. Yeah, down with Drifts in the Holla. Sounds interesting.
Yeah.
Can I be a mutant chicken who speaks like Foghorn Leghorn?
Well, he's already doing that in the Star Trek game, really. I mean, Dr. Taylor is essentially Foghorn Leghorn as a doctor.
Oh, really? All right.
Oh, yeah. I don't mean to say nothing bad to you now, but since before you were sucking on your mama's teeth,
Yeah, all right.
all we got to do is get him to start going, now, listen, I tell you now, if we can get him to do that, he's 100% Foghorn Leghorn at this point in time.
Len, the mama's teat is an actual quote from one of our sessions.
I'm sure it is.
To the executive officer on the bridge.
Maybe a Mexican wrestler who fell through a portal.
Ooh, superpowered luchador.
Yeah, got to think about that.
Well, there goes my idea. Oh, no, because I was thinking I could do like El Robato Satanico. The devil's robot, like it would be kind of fun to do. But now, if you want to do a luchador, it'd be weird to have
many options. There's many options.
Yeah, there you go. Well, that's interesting. It sounds like we've all got stuff coming up that's going to be very interesting. Short show tonight. Hey, it was really fun hanging out with you guys. Okay, well, thanks for tuning in, everybody. We've run out of shit to talk about. I did throw Hungar the link if he wanted to come by, but he doesn't pay attention to his Discord. So I guess that's that.
And by the way, Hungar, you're always invited to my games. So just hit me up if you want to play in this upcoming Rifts game.
Look at that. Though you're going to be doing some 4D gaming, I hear, Cody.
Yeah, whatever the fuck that is.
What?
I watched Max's video on it today.
I haven't watched it yet. Apparently, I was mentioned in it. That's
how I knew you were going to do some 4D gaming. So basically, what I understood, this is 1D gaming. Hang on, I'll explain to you. 1D gaming is I'm not paying attention. I'm fucking around on my cell phone. Okay. 2D gaming is I'm here to play the game, but I'm not really invested in the character. I ask questions and then get answers in there. 3D gaming is I might ask a question, but I'm trying to sort of, suss it out from my character's perspective. And 4D gaming is I tell the GM shit that seems logical for the setting, and he says yes. I'm like watching this going, okay. So the driftwood was the example that Monsieur Max did. It was a good example. He said, 1D gamer doesn't care. A 2D gamer is like, maybe asking or can I make a roll to see if there's something on the beach I can use. A 3D gamer says, hey, is there any driftwood? And a 4D gamer says, so since we're on a beach, I'm going to go find some driftwood. And then the GM goes, as a 4D GM goes, well, of course, there's a giant driftwood log there for you. And I'm like, okay. That just sounds like role-playing to me.
Yeah.
So I'm a little confused. I'm a little confused.
Is this a new concept?
I don't know what's going on, but 28mm got really mad at me the other night on a stream because I was rolling my eyes about something else, and he thought I was rolling my eyes about that.
Sounds like GM
And then,
encounters are the third.
you know, so now I'm just going to make fun of it because I already gotten shit for it. I might as well, you know, earn the penalty, right? Hungar, what's up, buddy?
You're always rolling your eyes about something, Bear.
Always. That's why I don't like when people are assuming I'm like. My favorite part is when someone assumes I'm rolling my eyes at them. I could be rolling my eyes at the cat, for fuck's sake. You know what I mean?
Normally, it's at me.
That's fair. That's very fair. You are a dominant personality. Hello, Janet from another planet. How you doing?
The chill gamer, what up?
I thought 4D gaming was mixing shit in the real world like tweets and Facebook posts. I have no idea anymore.
That's actually what I thought that was. Yeah.
See,
No,
I commented
apparently
on that, and I told him that 4D gaming's for slackers. I play 6D gaming.
It's fine. No, he explains it really well. Look, I all joking and kidding and you know, busting of chops aside, go watch Max's video. It's like 6 minutes long or something, and he explains it well. I think if you guys know me by now, you know I'm really against tribalism, and I'm really against things that divide us, and I'm really against the idea of putting up artificial things to break us up. Like people said we shouldn't call ourselves a community anymore because community is now a buzzword. Okay.
What?
Yeah.
They can fuck off.
Well,
but I made a decision, and I said, you know what? All right, fine. We're now the Society of Role-Playing Enthusiasts. To which immediately Nerds went, Thor. And I was like, no, fucking ruin everything, don't you, Nerds? So there you go.
I see when he was talking about, like you said, good video. I watched the video today.
Yeah, it was very good.
In the hospital, and gave me something to do, and it was a great.
Best
video.
Buy already has a copyright on that, Janet.
Our
trademark.
but you know, it's like when I role play, when I sit down at the table, I've said this before. I'm in character from the start of the game until the end of the game. I am in character. If I'm talking, I'm in character. That's the way he was talking about. Just seems like the way I try to role play every time I play the game.
What I don't understand is this aversion to asking questions of the referee.
I don't understand that. I do understand the aversion to people playing on their phones and shit.
Yeah. The 1D and 2D gamers make no sense to me. But like this idea that like, you know, you have 3D and 4D gamers, and like the primary difference between the two is an assumption. I find that weird to me because I don't have a problem saying, hey, that door, is it made out of metal? Like that just seems like, you know, as opposed to me going, well, since the door is made out of metal, you know, and then like the DM has to be forced into that position. I think, I don't know. It's weird. I gotta watch their live play and see if I can figure it all out.
If I can with Driftwood is I've been on 1,000 beaches, and I grew up in Florida. I've been on a lot of beaches, and there's not always driftwood, bro.
Not always.
So that just brought to mind, I will tell you that I have seen multiple times the sort of assumptive player be assumptive because they're clearly trying to navigate, they're trying to maneuver the GM into a corner. It's very clearly, I've seen it used sometimes, not necessarily with the best intent, but rather with the intent to win that particular exchange.
Yeah, I don't think that's what they're proposing. Like, I really don't think that's at all his proposition. I think his proposition is that makes the game more collaborative.
Totally get that. Totally get that.
But totally understand that too. It's just how I game. You know what I mean? Like, I don't feel a need for a label on it. You know what I mean? Especially one that pigeonholes people into categories. That sort of, I don't know. That's antithetical to my views of things.
So,
Brian, what do you want to say?
So
the
funny thing is, I think.
Wait, let me say it like Brian. It's anathema. Anathema. All right, Brian, go ahead.
Shut it.
Whatever, variant.
So the thing is, I think it's just a case of poor branding. They're trying to give it some kind of cool idea, cool concept. Okay. It's like, you know, first dimension, second dimension, third dimension, fourth dimension, and then but once you get to that whole 4D, it's like, oh, now we're moving our role playing through time. No, it's just I see what they're trying to get at as far as like the level to which you're invested in the game. You know, like going back to the Driftwood example, some of the times when we've been playing Star Trek, and it's like, okay, they need my help with something. So okay, here, let me go to the technobabble generator and I'm gonna make up, hey Bear, here's this thing. And you're just like, you know what, that name is just really cool, we're gonna roll with it. It didn't exist, I didn't consult with you on it, but I got more invested in trying to push something into the game that can be used. So I get this whole idea of 4D gaming,
Sure.
but yeah, like Patrick just said, he says they just don't want to call it levels. Which,
No, and I get that, but I want to make something abundantly clear. I am not shitting on the idea.
yeah,
I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I'm just trying to understand it better, is what I'm trying to do.
And I have to say that I agree with like 99% of it. Like, as a player, part of your responsibility as a player is to pay attention to the game.
Sure.
Don't be playing on your phone. Don't be freaking goofing off and telling jokes across the table and shit like that. And it's also part of your responsibility as a player. And this is just my opinion. So you can either agree with me or be wrong. I don't care. You should be adding to the game. You should be helping the GM with the world building, with your actions and stuff like that. That's just what a good player is, because you got to remember it's a game for the GM just as much as it is for the player.
Absolutely.
Well, if you're not making it enjoyable for the GM as a player, why is he taking time out of his life to do this? If everybody at the table is not having a good time, you guys could be playing Scrabble, or whatever.
Critical hit and Scrabble is the worst.
So everybody should be doing their best who's sitting at the table or on computer or whatever, however you're playing. Anybody who's involved in the game should be doing the best to make the game run and be funner for everybody involved in the game. So take an initiative on stuff like that. Instead of saying, hey, is there any driftwood about? Be like, I look at the beach and find a piece of driftwood or something like that. Understandable. He describes the door. So you're like, okay, the door is a standard sized door made out of oak with steel bandings. Just be more involved in the game. If you're going to be,
well, and I get that. I'm not denying that that's the ultimate goal they're going for. I just find the presentation confusing, and therefore I'm going to watch the game that Cody's going to play in, so I can get a better understanding of what they're talking about. Because I feel like it's being presented as some Kwisatz Haderach of gaming, and I'm like, okay, I'm prepared to be blown away. But forgive me if I'm going to be a little skeptical, before I see it played out.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to watch it just to see if I can't pick up any pointers as a GM and as a player.
Absolutely.
I will say this. I'm going to this not knowing any of these concepts, and I've done this on purpose because I'm just going to play. I'm going to role play like I always role play. I'm not going to be polluted by anybody else's concept about how I'm going to role play, because it always seems to work out. I mean, nobody's ever had any complaints about the way I play. So,
well, I've been meaning to talk to you about that.
Oh, okay, good. Let's hear them.
But I've had issues. I always let people know when I start a game with somebody, a new group or something like that. I always have to let them know when I sit down, if I'm talking shit to you, it's my character talking shit to your character, thinking that your character is doing something stupid. So if I'm like, say, why are you being such a moron? Why you want to take this guy prisoner? All he's going to do is like drag us down or whatever. That's not me as a person. That's my character. And I get where I can come off as an asshole sometimes when I'm playing my character, because sometimes my character's an asshole. And I think with stuff like that, it's always best to let people know, hey, when you sit down at the table, you're in character. So when I'm speaking to you, try not to take it personal, please, because it's not personal, it's the game.
No, absolutely understandable. Absolutely understandable. And I agree with that as well. It's why I don't play. Because I can play a pretty decent asshole, and I can make sure that I've got a character that can get some shit done at the same time. And Some of that shit might be not to your benefit, but to my character's benefit because he's a prick, and that can really that bothers some people. That really bothers some people.
Sarah hit it right on the nail right there. I kind of feel like your primary goal should be to follow your character arc and contribute to the telling of the story.
Agreed. And having the best Ferengi I've ever seen played, also the only Ferengi I've ever seen played, give us that advice is really telling because it shows, Sarah, you're an amazing player. Don't worry about it. I'm just busting your chops because I feel like I can now. But
your game last night was interesting.
It was an interesting game. I quite enjoyed that game. Nothing I loved more than Dr. Taylor's absolute refusal to understand what a hermat was. Like that was just like Cody being a dick and having as much fun being a dick as he could. And then when he asked her on a date, I'm like, all right, let's see where this goes.
Now who's misgendering the character Bear? You keep
her,
saying her.
HIR. That's that you use her. Her and Hish.
Right.
Hi, motherfucker. Don't step to my Star Trek shit. I will put you in a fucking Vulcan nerve pinch you're never getting out of.
I thought it'd be fun.
Yeah, I was good. Len, talk to us, man. We've been talking a lot of shit. What do you got to say?
About Star Trek nerve pinch and HIR? No, I got nothing there at all.
Florida man, pick a lane for Christ's sake.
No, I mean I don't disagree with anything. I think we're all saying basically the same thing in terms of the approach to gaming. So I really don't have anything to add. I think we're all on the same page, and I do lean towards your position of being careful about over categorizing things. Yeah. But sometimes nomenclature is helpful for understanding. So if it helps some people, level up how they play or get a different understanding of what helps the game for everyone, well, then so be it.
I just worry it can create divisions, right? That's what I worry about most. Because I remember the
Edition Wars.
No. The gamist, simulationist, that nonsense from a few years back. It was absolute nonsense.
But was it complete nonsense? I mean, does it help when you're, saying, look, I want something that's a little bit more realistic. I want to, and someone else saying, I want to jump from rooftop to rooftop in a way that no sane person is going to do, even if
I've got a game for you. It's called Heroic.
Oh, but you get the point, right? I mean, that's so it could be helpful. It could be helpful. So,
but it rarely is in this hobby, and that's the point where so again, being ultimately a protector in my life and how I behave, I sometimes see the potential for abuse down the road. You know what I mean? And I go, and then I want to steer clear of these things because I see the potential for abuse down the road. And all good intentions at their origin point, road to hell in their executions, right? Or when they get out of the hands of the creator and they become something that someone else picks up and runs away with and gets very, very, very abusive about. Okay. And that's my worry. I suppose if I had a worry, I don't even have a worry. I'm just confused by it. And I need to see it in action to understand what's going on. I certainly won't be using it. And I think there's also connective tissue that they may not see. That is the term 4D chess, which is popular in the culture wars right now as a way to either pretend you're smarter than everybody else in the room or accuse someone of thinking they're smarter than everyone else in the room, right? They used to call it galaxy brain, and now they're calling it, he's playing 4D chess, so clearly we can't keep up. And I'm like, oh, shit, I see that connective tissue.
Yeah, I played 4D chess. It's not an intentional reference, but if it is, oy vey.
I'm sure it's unintentional. I'm 100% sure it's unintentional.
Okay.
100%. But I see the connective tissue in a cultural zeitgeist sort of way, and that makes me a little...
But what somebody said earlier, somebody's going to find offense to anything that they want to find offense.
True. That's true. And again, since being clear is important on the YouTubes, I'm not offended by this. I don't think it's a bad idea. I don't think they're bad people. I'm just wanting to understand their concepts and philosophy more. I'm sure when Nietzsche first started throwing some ideas around, or Immanuel Kant said some stuff, there were people going, I don't know what the fuck he's talking about. I need more information on this, please. That's all. It's just a new philosophical bent that I want to try and understand better.
I think at the end of the day, they're just trying to be stronger role players and bring that to everybody else, present that to everybody else. And in that case, I think that's great. But I think the best way to do that is just do it. Don't talk about it. Don't philosophize about it. Just play the damn game. Do it.
And I think
be a good role model, and you'll present it to everybody else, and everybody will follow your lead.
And I think you're right on point. I think his whole deal is that he's just trying to play the game smoother and just make it run better for everybody involved, to have a more seamless game.
Yeah.
So
you got to commend that. You have to.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna disagree with Cody for once. Because I do think it is important to at least talk about the concepts like we do here most every week in the cafe, because like for me, I haven't been playing a lot, but by like for me, I would actually say it probably started with RPG Elite. I was watching his videos about the RPG Elite philosophy, and I think that was pretty interesting. And so it gave me some ideas on what I wanted to see. Listening and talking to Legion of Myth, Bear, everyone around here, as I was kind of coming up, and then a friend of mine, like out of nowhere, said, "Hey, I'm going to start playing, Dungeons and Dragons." And like literally brand new player. He's about my age. He has never played before. And so I was able to actually pass some of those ideas on to him because I had been talking about it. We had been having those discussions. So I told him, worry about role playing. Go in and try and describe, don't just say, "Oh, I want a perception check. Do I find anything?" No, go into it and say, well, we're in the room, so I'm going to knock on the desk and I'm going to pull the books off the shelves. Okay. Do I find the thing that I'm looking for?
Yeah.
And he came back to me and actually said, "Dude, nobody was doing that. But as soon as I started doing it, I was having so much more fun because I was pushing myself." So I think we need to talk about the things. Come up with the concepts, even if they're labeled poorly.
Let me explain. In 2 minutes, Mr. Boivin will be joining us to explain and answer any questions about 4D gaming.
And here's another thing that we have to take into consideration. English is not his first language.
I knew we were going there. I think it's a concept they came up with mutually, though. I don't think it's. I don't think he was like, "I like the 4Ds." Post Dale's comment. This one?
No.
Up.
This one?
Yes.
Yes.
That is a lie, Dale.
I really got to find a way to get you and Dale into a game together, Brian. I think that would be really funny.
I will say,
science and technology. So was that Cody?
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's okay, you did. But it's okay.
Yeah.
Go.
No, I apologize. I agree and disagree with Brian. Yeah, I do think it's good to talk about these things. I wasn't saying just don't talk about them. I mean, it's a lot of fun to philosophize and stuff. What I was saying, though, role-playing games are a very abstract idea.
Hold that thought.
Yep.
Night Carver, take care. Enjoy your City of Heroes.
Night Carver, night, Wayne's World.
And what I've learned over the years is you can explain all you want to somebody about what a role-playing game is, but whenever I have a new player, I give them the basic concept. We roll up a character. And what I find is they're going to get more information out of just doing.
It's almost like running a game. Wow.
Exactly. I guarantee you, I guarantee you, Brian, that you've gotten more out of playing in our Star Trek game than you have us just sitting here talking about games, right? I can tell
reading, game mastery 5 times and making notes or whatever.
Yeah, I can tell you've picked up a lot because, like, the first session you were a little bit on your toes, but you saw everybody around you. I took notice that you were catching on like a bad cold to everybody's role playing, And
from watching the game, you can tell that.
Yeah, you're rarely going to hear me say anything about my style, but I did not give him a choice. I threw him in. Monsieur Boivin, salut la visite.
How are you doing?
We're good. We are trying to figure out 4D gaming based on your video that many of us watched today. But I thought it would be better to have you here to explain it to us, and then we can ask questions to get a better knowledge.
Yeah, I'm glad to ask if you have any question.
Premièrement, start with an explanation, and then we'll go to questions after.
Yeah, so the first thing I wanted to stress out, like the 4D gaming thing, like it's not about like, I know the name's a bit braggadocious and stuff like that, and it can seem like, we're trying to pretend that we're better than the other. That's not the point. Like everybody needs to find their place where they're comfortable at gaming, the style of play that they enjoy and stuff like that, and that's fine, right? Mm-hmm. And it's just like the way I try to explain it is about those layers of engagement with the game. So the first dimension, or the first layer, if you want, is like the people that just want to hang out with friends, make a lot of jokes, have a beer and stuff like that, have a good time. That's great. That's important as well. Then we go to the next one, the 2D gaming, with people that focus a little more on the game. They're there with their friend, or maybe with people that just game with. And while they're there, they're going to cut like the random jokes. They're going to try to focus a little more on the game. But they're still going to do like the asking questions to the GM, the mother may I, and stuff like that. They're going to ask questions out of character, right? So they're going to say like, oh, can I do this? Can I do that? Is there that in the room, right? Then you go to the next level, the 3D gaming, where now you not only like stay in character and you cut the joke off and stuff like that, and you focus on the game, but you don't ask questions as a player to the GM. If you want to know something about the scene and stuff like something like that, you have your character interact with the world or with an NPC. So you describe what your character does. Like you want to know something about the door, you say, I go look at the door. I check if the door is locked, stuff like that. You describe what your character would do in the world. In a way, that's how we gather information about the world, right? We ask somebody,
that's 3D,
or we do some. That's 3D. Yeah, and the 4D gaming is the next. It's not only you do what's in 3D, but also you're willing to interject stuff, contribute, and be a co-creator of the world, and contribute stuff that would make sense to be there. You have to respect the setting, you have to respect the tone of the game and stuff like that, the reality of the world that you're depicting. But if you're in a studies, right, and you don't have to ask if there's a bookcase there. You don't have to say, I look around for a bookcase. You can just say like, oh, I go to the bookcase and do X, right? Even if no bookcase was described. And you need to have like a group that is open to that everybody needs to be on the same wavelength and that. And now like suddenly, well, there's a bookcase in there. Maybe none was mentioned, but it makes sense it's there. So now there's a bookcase in the room. And you can just like keep going and keep building on the scene like that, right?
So more interactive role-playing.
Well, it's like I said, not everybody needs to be on the same wavelength, because I wouldn't do that with any kind of player. Like some people are just gonna try to conjure like an advantage to themselves out of thin air. Sometimes they're gonna go too far with stuff that doesn't really make sense, right? So you have to be, you kind of like the proper social contract for that. But it's just like to keep it helps. It cuts out of the dialogue between player and GM to probe of what is present. Because now you can just say, well, it makes sense that be there. So like, I'm just going to do that. Like that in my video this morning, the example I was giving was for driftwood. You're on a beach, and it's probably going to be some, right? You don't necessarily have to say like, I look for what, just or you want to pick a rock when you're in the wood. You don't have to say, oh, I look for a rock on the ground, right? That'd be 3D, which is not bad. But then you can just say, I pick a rock on the ground, and yeah, okay, there's one. It's fair enough.
So my only question is this then, and then I'm sure the others will have questions that'll get deeper into it. What is the benefit of this?
It, like I said, it cut a lot of the dialogue between like, oh, I look for that, and then the GM reply, yes, there's one, and then they say, okay, pick it up, right? Now you can just condense it all in one action. I pick the rock and I throw it in the bush, right? So it cut the fat. And keep the action going very fast. It allows you it allows a very cinematic role play in a sense, right? That's the main benefit of it.
All right. Any questions, guys?
I'm just going to jump in and say that I'm going to bounce. I need to stretch out. But sorry to hop in and hop off, guys. Good to see you all.
Always.
Peace, love, and chicken grease as
Okay.
always.
Always.
Max really dug the video of you walking around outside.
Yeah.
That was
Beautiful place.
cool.
So you got to understand, that's my home. So I'm watching him walk around trees and landscape, and I'm going,
It looked beautiful.
It is God's country, sir. You will someday you'll visit it, and you will be blown away by how beautiful where this is.
Sometimes it's cold though.
Oh yeah, minus
Snow
30.
Underground kind of gave that away, but
Yeah.
you deal with it. Peace,
Okay.
love, and chicken grease, everybody. Have a good one.
See ya, Hungar.
Take care.
Crispy, would you like to jump in with us since this is something you're involved with as well? I mean, if you'd like to, let me know, and Max can give you the link, and we'd absolutely love to have you in to discuss this, because I think the thing is for us is, so as I was saying earlier, Mr. Boivin, and I want you to understand this, and I've said this 5 times to the camera, I'm not shitting on this idea. Brandon Brown,
Totally kidding. It's a whole
He's
for you.
nothing but crapping on it.
nothing, just like fucking 4D with this. Fuck, I play 18D, but I'm trying to understand it. And one of the things that I've made very clear in my entire existence is I don't like tribalism. I don't like things that can create barriers between people, right? So while you guys have innocent intent, I can clearly see people trying to take this idea, well, Billy, you're just a 2D player, type of mentality. So for me, I want to have a better understanding of it in case I want to take aspects of it, or even if I want to defend it when someone says some shit about it. I want to be able to say, well, you know what, this is a philosophy, and by understanding the philosophy, here's what I take from it. So that's why I'd like to know more.
I think it's also like the idea is also like to create. I'm also like interested about creating this certain type of language, because sometimes we say like, we all engage in role playing, but sometimes we engage with the game in such different way that it's almost like we're in different hobby, right? It's just like you have some people that are very tactical and stuff like that, and if we can have like this dialect, like this dialogue of this vocabulary, if you want, that we can describe the type of table, because if you just want, like, if you people like and I just want to say just one, because now you always go into that sense that like, it's like a hierarchy and stuff like that. But if you interested only like the 1D type of play, like for you, role-playing game is just like an occasion to get with friend, drink some beer, eat a pizza, make some joke. That's fucking fine. That's great. That's very important. RPG are great to maintain those social relationship that we have. Like you get adult and you barely see your friend anymore. You like see them like for a moment and say we should do something sometime, right? And then you never do. Role-playing game are great to create this like, well, you know what? Every fucking month we get together and we do something. So I don't want to shit on that either, right? That's important. If you say like, the 2D is good for us, I'm asked question. I'm not too comfortable of just like staying always in character. I find it's too much work. It cut the fun. Well, you know what? It is what it is, right?
Yeah.
And same thing with like when I say 4D, it won't be right for every player either. But now if we develop this language, and maybe the nomenclature could be better or whatever, but now it's just a way of seeing it, right? We can say like, you know what, we try to run a 4D table, so that means like you are allowed to interject stuff as a player. It's expected of you to stay in character all the time, not to ask question to the GM. Like we say, like people freak out when we say that. Like when we say like don't ask question to the GM, we mean like don't you as a player ask a question to the GM, right? Your character can ask a question to NPC. Your character can probe around the world and stuff like that. That's fine, right? That's good. But so it's just like that's the way I see it. That's the way I try to approach it. If you want, I don't know if that answers your question.
I want to hear what these guys have to ask, because I tend to learn better by listening to other people question than hearing the answers. It helps me. That's how I learn. Also, I have a cat.
So real quick, out of my chat, Glenn Royer says big words for what's just collaboration and letting players have more ownership. I get what Glenn is saying, but I do think it is actually helpful to try and put some like from an outside perspective, as opposed to sitting people at the table and trying to show them what we're talking about. Because you can say, oh, it's collaborative storytelling.
Yeah.
And I don't think people necessarily even understand what that means. So being able to say, now I'll be honest, Max, I'm not a big fan of the 4D label. It kind of throws it off, especially because for me that associates it with dimensions and whatnot. Somebody else said layers. I think you said
I
layer
said
when
layer.
you were I actually really like that idea. Like what because level will get absolutely confused with like character levels, but the layer concept of how deep do you want to go into your game, what layer do you want to get to, I think is a better way to represent it, especially for newer players. So I get the idea. Anyways, I just wanted to make that comment.
Well, there's also like the thing that and to respond, was it Glenn was saying in your chat, like a big word well, actually it's a small word, just like 2-letter, like 4D, right? A number letter. So that was the idea of it as well. Now we can just, instead of like, well, we're trying to do the collaborative thing where we allow to interact and interject and stuff like that, like that would belong. If we can develop this nomenclature and just say like we try to run a 4D game, right? Then now we have to explain it because it's a new kind of nomenclature that we're coming up with. So there's that, right? But and I understand also your view of like, dimension. Yeah, maybe there's this confusion about like, because like Bear at some point was saying, how do you play like in space and time and stuff like that?
Yeah,
well,
right.
as well.
But the other thing is something else that I brought up that I don't think I'm pretty sure you guys didn't connect, but there's this thing running around the culture war right now where they accuse people of playing 4D chess. And it's a snotty snark against someone thinking they're smarter than they are. So it's like, I also feel that weird. And I know that's not your intent, but I can see that connectivity. So that made me kind of go, like it was a weird sort of cultural touchstone for me. But now that you're explaining it better, I get what you're going for. But like, let's use the driftwood for example, right? What if there is no driftwood? Am I allowed as a 4D referee to go, well, actually, there is no driftwood there?
Well,
No?
if you want to do, that's the idea. If you want to do like the 4D referee, and it's specifically important for you that there's no driftwood, that's the thing when you describe like the beach in your first time, like they come up and stuff like that, you would say like the beach is completely bare. You would, if it's important. But the idea is like it comes also with a bit of like a no prep, kind of like a very little prep, and you go with like, we sometimes talk about like letting the player take the lead and the GM being more reactive, right? Instead of like the GM giving the lead and the player reacting. Kind of flip
Very
that around.
apocalypse world idea.
Yeah, that's the thing. It feels like the apocalypse world. It feels like Fate a little bit to me. It feels like that type of story gaming I don't care for. Where
I don't care
players
for
have
that
way
either.
too much control over the universe that I spent all that fucking time building. Like it's like, okay. But I'm open to experiencing this. I'm open to learning about it. And I'm open to see if there's something from it that I can glean. Cody, you've said nothing. Have you got anything you'd like to ask?
I don't really have any questions because I understand the concept. But I don't feel like that's the ultimate form of a game. I feel like my ultimate form is somewhere between the 3D and the 4D. Right. Yeah, I'm always hoping that the players, I always in my games try to get the players to drive the game more than I'm driving it. Because in my experience, that's going to that always makes for a better game experience. Yeah. And that's why, if you notice when I run games, that's kind of how I approach running a game. I describe the scene, I describe what's going on, but I'm not opposed to them asking questions. I think asking questions is fine. I don't really like the idea of the players not asking questions. I don't think that's an inferior way of gaming. Not that I'm saying you're saying it is, but that's kind of what you're implying with 3D and 4D, because when you say 4D, it makes it sound like, oh, this is the ultimate form. This is the Super Saiyan form of gaming. And
maybe someone will come with a deeper form afterward.
Yeah. And I just think it's a different form of gaming, but I do like a lot of those aspects, though. I do like it when players, especially with world building and stuff. I've had a lot of players be like, oh, I'm from this land and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, that's cool. and we'll like cooperatively come up with where this land is and what it is. And then, we'll draw it up, and I'll draw a map, and we'll talk about the whole kingdom, and bam, this kingdom exists now, and stuff like that. Or if, and I have no problem with the player, you walk into a library. Well, I'm going to go up to the bookcase and get a book. Well, that's just, that's just common sense. Any good gamer is going to do that. But I think there is like a certain boundary there that I'm kind of opposed to, and I can't quite describe it. Yes, Lynn.
I think it's a neat idea, and I get why you're doing it, and I can definitely see the benefit of all of it. From not having heard this before and not having had the benefit of the video, but hearing you guys talking about it, what it seems to me in hearing this is that the first 3 layers or levels or tiers or dimensions or whatever you want to call them feel like you're describing player investment or player immersion. The first 3 very much feel focused on player investment or immersion. And there's a fairly palpable difference between the 3. In very simple terms, one's the guy who's at the table just to be with his friends. One's the guy who's at the table who's there to sort of play the game. And one's the guy who's immersed in the character. And they're very, very rough, but those are the rough 3. But the difference between 3 and 4 doesn't feel like a different level of player immersion. Rather, it feels like a different level of GM permission or of the rules and end zones of that particular table and what that GM allows or doesn't. So it sort of feels to me like we're kind of combining 2 different things in this conversation. One is player investment and the different levels of it, and one is less about player investment and more about the kind of game. That may be some of the frisson that we're kind of feeling here. There may be 2 different things going on within these definitions that you're looking to establish.
I can the way I see it is, like I said, it's like I still see it as a way, like the 4D as a way of like a player engagement or immersion, in the sense that you dare to, and yes, there's also like you take a bit of the load of the GM, right? And you dare be a co-creator of the world. Like at some point you're fully immersed, you're a character in the world, and at some point not only you're a character in the world, but you also have like this, you contribute to the mindscape that we depict together in our mind, right? And like I said, that's why like there's kind of a line there, and like Major's musing what he's saying there, what is on screen. Yet yes, some people are not gonna like that because, and some players couldn't be trusted with that, to be honest, right? Because like they're gonna try to push too far always and stuff like that, right? Just like so you need to be with the right player, the right table, and stuff like that. Like,
so let me hang on. Let me. I don't know if you guys watched the Paradise Station Star Trek game. Not that I'm here to brag up my shit, but I think this is something I've been doing anyway, in the sense of, for example, when Patrick's doctor was in the sick clinic, he's like, okay, well, I'm going to go over to my biobed. Great, but it's broken. Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm going to go grab this off the shelf. Awesome. That's actually been stolen, and all you have left is this. So he was making presumptions of things that should be there, and it was creating a yes, but, yes, no, yes, and situation. So I get sort of what you guys are going for. I suppose my only real sort of uncomfortableness with it is the labeling. You know what I mean? Like, it just feels sort of elitism in my mind, right? And I know that's not what you're going for, but I can see how people will see it that way or take it that way. Well, and that's not something I'm a big fan.
Elitism, like, because like, of course, that's the labeling that we came up with. So it's biased toward our perspective, but like some people, like their form of elitism is saying, well, like doing one-on-one time or having an always on campaign, everybody, like the way you prefer to play the game, you can label it however you want and depict it however you want. For you, that's the optimal way of playing the game, right? Sure. Maybe this is the optimal way of playing the game for me and for the people I'm playing with that enjoy that style of play as well. If it's not for you, like I'm not saying you're lesser or whatever, just like I don't care, right? But obviously we're trying to promote a certain type of role play, And like I often say, sometimes sometimes we see people like leaving the hobby, say, you know what, I don't get what I used to get from it, and say like, maybe you should try immerse yourself more, try try some different style of play. When we grow old, sometimes the way we played when we were 12-year-old, or when we're 20 or when we're 30, maybe at some point we get a little older and say, well, you know what, I'm not into that anymore. Well, this hobby got a lot more. You can try different type, and sometimes you can also go, what, not like I don't want to be involved anymore and be immersed. I just want to fucking like hang out with buddy. That's fine, right? The hobby got a lot of place you can go.
Yeah.
And there was another thing I wanted to say. Oh yeah, for Cody, that say like he doesn't mind when the player asks questions to the GM. On that, I would reply that oftentimes it's not necessary, right? Because like you can get the same information by interacting with the world or with NPC. Would you agree with that, Cody?
I would agree to an extent. Sometimes, though, it's necessary to ask questions because sometimes the player is going to come up with things that you didn't think about.
Yeah.
But also, if they're just making things up. I mean, and I'm fine with both of these, right? Like I know Phil was just saying that I felt defensive, and maybe I came off as that. I'm not coming off as defensive at all, actually. I'm not taking affront to anything you're saying. I just want to make that clear. I'm actually very interested in what you have to say. I think my main problem with the whole concept is just basically, because I'm not very eloquent with words. I think Bear and Lynn pretty much summed up what I was trying to say, actually. But I think what I was saying is I think there's a place for both, right? I don't think, I think, if they feel like they need to ask questions, I'm fine with that. If the player wants to interact and just do, that's fine too. I don't find either one lesser though. That's all I was saying, really.
And it's also like I would say like, if a player asks a question to the GM, like just fucking keep the game rolling. Like don't slap them on the end. Hopefully, like if you prefer that they don't do that, hopefully you have other player at the table, like and
sure
that are on board, and then maybe they can adapt their style a bit. Like you have to also like feel the vibe of the room, right? And adapt yourself to. But and there's another thing I wanted to say, according to what Bear was saying when he's saying, oh, the player make assumption and then they say, oh, but this is broken or this has got stolen, stuff like that. That's the thing as well with because we talk with the 4D play where the player take a little more of almost a little more of the GM role, right? A little more initiative and stuff like that. But that also means that the GM need to be willing to let go of some control, right? Now, so it will require like less prep and being able to roll with the punch more because now the player is going to bring something else. And for me as a GM, I love that. I love like being surprised. I love when I don't really know where the game is going. I don't have like a strict plan, right?
Have you watched my games?
Yeah. So, but and that's the thing, like when I often say, sometimes I say that, I say like, don't cock block your player. Your player is trying to interact with the world. He's you got an idea. He's doing something, roll with it, If it makes sense
generally, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but generally I would do that. I would absolutely, I roll with whatever 99% of the time with what the players want to do. You know what I mean? Like that. I'm a completely improvisational game master. Mm-hmm. I plan very, very little, to be real. Beyond like making maps, that's about as much prep as I do. I have like a general idea of events that are going to happen, but it's up to the players to discover those events. I lay out what's around them, what surrounds them, and who they can interact with, and what's around. And my whole goal is for them to push the action as much as they want. Now, if they go somewhere else and do something else, cool. I start making shit up based on what they're telling me they want to do and how they want to do it. So I guess actually what you're talking about is basically what I do anyway. So now you're right though. Like it is up to like player skill and involvement though. Like some players are not, especially newer players, right? Most of the time a newer player is going to be shy. They're not going to be as involved in the game, or some people are just not as involved in the game. So yeah, you have to adjust and adapt to, you're right. You have to adjust to your table, right? But I agree with you. I actually totally agree with what you're saying here. You should always be trying to rise the players up, right? And the other players should be too. I'm always preaching this. The best player in the room should be trying to make everybody the best player in the room. You know, they should lead by example, as I always say and always preach. They should always be trying to lead by example and give, not always steal the spotlight, but set a good example of what a good role player is and how to be not just a good role player, but how to be a good player and rise everybody to that level, right? So eventually, hopefully, everybody at the table is playing at that same level, and then you're going to have an amazing experience.
Yeah, and I lost my train of thought. Sorry, there's something else I wanted to add to that.
Cody is like that, man. He's so majestic.
There's one thing we have to consider as well. You know, like here, like a lot of us, like I've been playing for a long time. I know Brian's a little newer, but then you hang out with like good player and stuff like that. But like, you have to consider, like, you see GM putting their player on the railroad and stuff like that, right? And you see player that go to the table and they just want to be told like what to roll, when to roll, and they're gonna do it and whatever, right? Just like that exists, right?
Absolutely.
It might not exist in our daily life in gaming because like we've been into that hobby for a long time and we have the luxury to choose our player a bit, right? Choose the player with who we engage in the hobby a bit, but it's still like a big part of that. And so that's also part of why this like I'm not expecting that any of you is going to be like, oh, super far off from that. Like that the concept I'm bringing in are not like like crazy, right? But for some people, they're not there yet, right? Maybe not interested in getting there. Maybe they are. Like that's their choice they can make later on, right? And there's another point I want to make. I forgot now. He's going to come back to me, Brian.
Well, and one thing that I wanted to point out is I think there always has to be some level of GM control. You know, the player can come in, going back to the driftwood example, it's like, oh, well, we're out on a beach, I'm going to pick up a piece of driftwood. You know, the GM doesn't have to say, oh, well, there's no driftwood here. He could go as far as, yeah, you find something, but, you know, like at most you're finding like sticks and twigs. You're not finding any, you know, like say the player's looking for a log or, you know, a 2x4 kind of a
something to make a torch out of or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, you know, I get what you're looking for, but sorry, that, you know, that while you find wood on the beach, you're not finding what you're looking for. So I like the concept because I think it is a higher level player that is trying to push things in as opposed to just, do I find a log? Is the door locked? You know, like actually going in and as Max was saying, interacting with the world. I think that is a better way to play. But I don't think the GM has to accept all of those things, you know, to make it a good game.
There's a way that the GM can like in world try to like counteract the player went too far and stuff like that, and that's a skill that needs to be learned as well and need to be developed. Like it's not something that is easy sometimes if you want like your player to run off and stuff like that. And I remember also the other point I was making, like one thing that's important to remember, I think, in role-playing game is that the story we're telling together at the table is, in a sense, that we're creating. We're creating together a story, and it's the story of those the PC. They are the protagonists of the story. We're trying to figure out what's happening to those guys, right? So I think that's why it's good to let them lead to some extent, because you know, like as a GM, I'm gonna do the secondary character, the extra, the background people, the antagonists, and the world, the environment mostly, right? But the protagonist, the player character, the players control the protagonist. That's a big part of this, like what makes the story, right? So that's why, like, I think letting them lead a lot is a good thing if you want to have like this more like cinematic kind of like a vibe.
100% agree.
Sure, I think we all agree that you know, I think what Max, what you're talking about in terms of the emergent, the nature of a narrative in an RPG is not a narrative like a book or a novel. It's emergent. It comes as a result of the gameplay. There may be some larger overarching meta plot and whatnot, but what actually occurs, the story of the game, tends to be emergent story that results from play.
Okay.
and the more tire, 3D, 4D, or whatever you go get there, the more the players have a role in developing that emergent narrative. And by the way, when you did that before, I was completely confused because I'm like, didn't he have a beard? Like I looked away for a second, and your beard had vanished, and I'm like, oh my god, it's been a long time since I've done anything that would make me imagine that. Oh, then there you go.
Florida, baby.
So, but I do look as what you guys are talking about this, and as we're talking about, and the people are chatting in the comment. I'm gonna go back and repeat that I actually think we're talking about two different concepts here, and they're definitely related, but they are different. One is the level of player engagement, and even I don't know if you want to call it skill or facility or whatever, but the other one is the kind of game, because there are kinds of games where the player really has. Sure, the player can always say, if you're walking through the woods, I pick up a rock. There's a certain level of assumptive, I'm covered in skin. Okay, yeah, there's some sort of default obvious stuff. But I think the question of where is that line of what the player can make up, that really depends on the game you're playing. And the punchline of this is you can play an apocalypse world game that is very player-driven, where Brian, the player, could have a lot of control, or in a Fate game, or in a couple of John Wick games that he's written, the player can totally take control of the narrative. And guess what? What's in that box is what the player says is in that box.
Yeah.
And you could have a player in that game who's a 2D player, even though the game itself is a very structurally 4D game. So they are different things we're talking about here. They're both relevant, but one's the kind of game you're playing.
To be honest, I'm not a big fan of those games that try to do this thing with mechanic and stuff like that. I think it's something that should be at the table, because otherwise the narrative just become like a talking stick or like a ball that you can pick up and steal from one another. That's again, I want it to be more free form and be more free flowing.
The games have a tendency to the rules tend to get in the way, seem to sometimes get in the way a bit of the actual narrative.
With some system, the rules do get in the way. And sometimes we play with rules and we're still playing a game, we still make dice roll and stuff like that. It's just pure improv, but we don't necessarily need to invoke all the rule all the time. Sometimes you just let it ride, right? You just you don't need to roll for every action you need to make. Sometimes it makes sense. There's no reason you would fail that, or you have time, you're not under stress. Okay, you can just make it, right? And but they are if you bring out the grid and battle map and stuff like that and miniature, it's probably gonna take you out of this. It's for you, because now you're no longer in your minor character. You're your eyes are you're no longer seeing through your character's eyes. You're seeing miniature on the map, right? So there's that. So those kind of rules we oftentimes gonna let on the side a bit, right? Just but we're still playing a game, right? We try that style with Castle and Crusade and with Traveler, which are regular normal game that you can play in any kind of way, and it works, right? And now we're gonna try on Friday with Werewolf, and I'm sure we're gonna get it going as well.
So real quick, Dale says, "What's the difference in emergent between asking the GM? Is there driftwood versus I go pick up the driftwood? The player is still telling what the character is doing." I disagree, Dale. I think the problem there is, I think what Mr. Max is trying to say is offloading some of the creativity from the GM. Instead of, is the door locked? Is there driftwood? Is there, an alien around the corner? It's trying to make suggestions as to what could be going on and letting the GM make rulings based off of that. No, the driftwood's too small. The alien is cloaked. Whatever.
But here, Nerds Nerd has a good point. Is there driftwood is not in character. I go looking for driftwood is. Now that makes more sense to me than I pick up the driftwood.
Yeah, those
no.
That's an important distinction, and I think both are good, both are valid, right? You can say I look around for driftwood. That's fine. That's totally it's in character. You're describing your action. You're saying what you're doing and stuff like that. It's totally fine. And there's always like those gray zone, right? Where even if you're trying to be like 4D and stuff like that, there's always like those gray zone when you're gonna say I look for this, because like it's uncertain. They might be, they might not be, right? Then at that point, it's good to precise, like, well, I look for that stuff like that, And this is, I think, also to what Len was saying. This is also where like there's a almost a skill issue, like a skill thing that come in for the player that come into play as well, because it's knowing when it's okay to interject something, when it's not, and stuff like that. And that also go with the table and getting the vibe of it. And so there's like this level of skill there, and the skill for the GM to react to that and go with it. Or if you went too far, like bring you back a bit without like just saying no, or without like correcting you, without saying, well, actually, like that's, we want to avoid that. And like the driftwood, saying I pick up driftwood, usually like the difference between two, like if you say I look for driftwood, it's totally fine, it's in character and stuff like that. But then the GM say you can find, the GM is going to say you find a big piece of driftwood nearby, right? Or there's a big piece of driftwood nearby. It's going to describe like that. And then you go back to the player and say, okay, I walk to the driftwood and I pick it up. And then I do whatever I want to do with it, right? So now you have like those kind of three interaction, right? If you just say like I pick up a bit of driftwood, you can go straight and I try to fashion a torch out of it, right? I pick up a piece of driftwood, I strip up my shirt, and I make a torch, improvised torch out of it, right? Now you've cut like this back and forth with the GM. So it's just like it's about that. It's about like cutting this, like trimming the fat, right? So we can just like keep the thing rolling. And like I said, like not everybody's want that.
But hang on. Trimming the fat is where we get flavor. And having that interaction is where the game is happening, right? The interaction. I haven't thought of everything as a GM. The player asking me a question might make me have to think about something and therefore provide a response. If the player just presumes something's there, I have one of two choices now. I can either be a cocksucker and go, actually, no, you don't find that. Or I have to now immediately allow what they wanted to happen, even if it's inconsequential, happen. So my control is being removed. Now my agency is being removed in favor of player agency. And that doesn't seem like it's an improvement in the game for me. And it's cutting down interaction between player and GM, which I think is some of the best aspects of role playing.
And here is another bump on that. It does expedite the game, but it, in a very small way, reduces immersion. And here's why. If you're immersed in the character, until you see the drift, again, there's something, and this is the nuances of this particular one really matter. Because if you're walking through the woods, I pick up a stick. Nobody needs to ask the question, is there a stick? Because you're walking through the woods, okay? But if it's anything less than that obvious, you lose a hair of immersion, because if you're actually the character in that role, you may be hoping to find driftwood. But until you actually see the piece, there's that tension in the search, because you might not find it, or what you find might not be usable for your purposes. And so there's, in fact, over a lot of the negative or some of the pushback I've heard towards Fate and some other games like that, where the players are allowed more narrative control, is that people have felt at times that they're not playing their characters, they're playing storytellers or writer. So they're not, and so there is a bit of immersion that's lost in the uncertainty that the character feels that the player might not, if the player knows. And that's where, again, defining what you can say. I don't think you lose any immersion, and Bear, I don't think you lose any control by walking through the woods and I say I pick up a stick. Okay, but the driftwood on the beach, for example, again, as a guy, sometimes yes, and sometimes no. And so, and that may be the question of a table understanding where that magical, mystical line of, don't bother me, that's obvious. And no, that one you got to talk to me about where that one.
And that's important also, like you can only do that if you understand that if you have like player that are not trying to win, right? And that, like, for them, or their view of winning is like, we create an interesting story, and that those tension are important, right? So he's not gonna always like conjure an advantage for himself. If it's important, like, if it's like, if it would be dramatic, there would be no driftwood and no wood or whatsoever, right? There, you on a desert island, you're just like shipwrecked and whatever, right? Then it's gonna be like, yeah, I look for wood, I look for some driftwood, and those are still good to use. If it's gonna be a minor thing, like just an inconvenience like that, it's there's a lot about like gauging this. Where like is there attention in that? So I would say like that's like I say it's touchy and it's a learned skill. And sometimes like even like daring, if you want, like because something you don't want to go too far either. Like that's something like sometimes I say like it happened in some game that I do go the I look for route, and afterward I say, well, maybe then I could have dared, right? But I didn't dare at the time because I didn't want to inject too much, right? And then if the GM just said, yeah, there is, right, whatever, so just end with like, then maybe, and something that you can still learn, right? So it's something you can you learn with your table as well where this line is. And as for what Bear was saying, like taking away the GM agency, it's spread it around a bit, and that's what I'm saying. You have to be willing to let go some of the control, and what you gain in exchange is that the player can take you place you didn't plan. You do stuff because sometimes like they can, if they ask the question, you can say no, you can say yes. So you can usually when you say no, that things go awry. But if you're gonna say yes all the time, then why have them ask question? Just say like, well, just don't make it up then, right? But if you say no, then maybe you could have like seen something like very interesting, like maybe they had an idea in their mind, right? That you didn't see coming, and something very cool, something very imaginative, and you're rubbing yourself with that. So that's the deal that you have to decide. Like, well, is it, what's more important for you, and that's like a personal choice for your table at the point.
I see the point you're making. I don't necessarily agree with the point you're making in that I still don't see the benefit of this, and I am not a GM who says no all the time. I say no when it's absurd or when it doesn't fit the moment. But I enjoy the back and forth and the interaction with the player. I enjoy the conversation with the player beyond just the game itself. So for me, it's sort of like, I'm not saying I'm giving up control, but I'm just saying I'm not seeing a clear benefit to this. I guess that's the thing I'm not seeing, is the clear benefit of this improves the game because X. Now, if someone can explain that to me, I'm open.
Maybe like no right now.
Oh, sorry.
So notice Bear saying no right now.
That's Dale. Dale, trust me. Dale, everything Dale says, ignore everyone.
If I can jump in real quick. James mentioned about if anyone read How to Be a Good GURPS GM by Warren Mook Wilson. And while I have not read the book, I hear it is a terrific GM book. And so, yeah, it's on my list.
I'm not familiar with it. But what I was saying about Bear and saying no. Oh, the interaction. Yeah. Like in a sense, you don't have like less interaction between GM and the player, but you have less interaction for one event, because then you can move to the next event, the next thing happening, right? So it allows you so instead of like resolving like one thing, like this picking of the stick, like, because the example we're stuck with now.
Yeah, we're stuck with the stick.
Stupid driftwood.
No. Yeah. Dale's upgraded it to a Sasquatch.
But instead of having like 2 interaction for this one thing, now you have 1 interaction for that thing, and then you can have 2 more things going on, right? So
yeah, it might be a complete irrelevancy. It might be a total.
Okay, but then why do we need to have an entire system of gaming philosophy around something that's irrelevant? This is what I'm not seeing the benefit. It's like when people say, I roll all my dice at one time, or you can't do that. That adds extra roll to the procedure. And at the end of the night, it adds up to 15 seconds of time. So how is this benefiting the game? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Well, that's the thing. Like maybe I see the benefit in that. Maybe you don't, because like we value different things differently, right? And I don't
understand it. That's the problem. It's not that I don't see the benefit, because I'm not understanding the benefit, and I'm looking for a presentation or an explanation of what the benefit is. Now, I know you're not trying to take an elitist stance on this, but someone earlier said that they've seen certain people that are involved in this 4D gaming refer to it as a superior type of gaming or something like that. The person can repost their comment. And I know for a fact that when you guys were talking about it and I was thinking about something else and rolling my eyes at something else, 28 millimeter made a snark comment to me about, well, Bear just doesn't get it. That was dismissive, and that's elitism again. And that's what I'm trying to avoid in gaming. I don't like elitism. I don't like tribalism. So, as I said,
I'm not bothered by that as much, to be honest, because like I said, like superior way of gaming, that's extremely subjective. It's
Very
superior
much.
for what you're looking for. Look what what we're looking for, but a different way of gaming is gonna be superior for them, right? There's some people that want and that's all right. Have your fun the way you want. Like just like I don't care.
Good night, Christopher.
But
I'm not dismissing it. I'm not saying it's a bad idea, Mr. Boyle. I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I'm just trying to understand the benefit of the idea. And as it stands right now, I mean, I can see a little bit of a benefit to it, but I don't see how not having it is a detriment. So that's what I'm trying to sort of understand a little bit. All right. So nerds, let's see if nerds got it right. Let's find out. Sounds like the benefit is mostly around less GM interaction and hyper-focusing on the yes and improv, whether you think that's a benefit or not, or a separate convo. Is that accurate, what she's saying?
Well, it takes away the yes and improv in a sense, because because that's also part of the interaction. If I understand what you mean by that, like people say like, oh, that those are like the answer, like some GM advice, or like, oh yes, say yes. Say yes to everything, basically, like, right? Just like I think it's
worst
bad
advice ever given to a GM.
There's a lot of bad advice out there, but
because then you got Dale as a player going, "Well, I pull Sasquatch out of the woods and have him attack the bad guys." No, Dale, there's no Sasquatch. Yeah. Yes, Dale, there's a Sasquatch. That's a different kettle of fish.
Yeah, exactly. That's not what we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
The main benefit, reducing GM player interaction for one thing. You resolve the one thing that player wants to do faster because you trim a bit there, right? And so you can move on the next thing. It keeps the game very dynamic, and also as a GM, I like seeing where the player is going to take that game, right? Seeing what they're doing for you give them the freedom to impress you and to surprise you, right? I love that.
Okay, but how is that different than just hypothetically staying with the driftwood, because we're not going down the Sasquatch road, Dale. Cody says to me, I go and I pick up some driftwood, versus Cody turns to Brian and says, I'm going to go look for some driftwood. I think the second is vastly superior because he's interacting in character with another person.
Yes, I agree with you. On that. That's a very good way to do it as well. Like now, like I was just like, we're just talking without like if there were like no other character around.
Sure.
But if you can interact with a character, that would be right in the alley of the 4D or the 3D or whatever, right?
There's a little bit of how many angels can dance on the head of a pin going on in this conversation too.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's a little bit of a
listen, Professor, just because you've grokked everything doesn't mean the rest of us have, all right?
I'm just saying, this is like Nicene Council stuff.
Now who's being an elitist?
So,
I don't know.
and by the way,
I sort of get what you're talking about. I see it, but I'm going to have to watch this game that Cody's going to be in to see if I can really get an understanding of it. Because I understand how Cody plays, because I've played enough with him now to know his style, what he's shown me as a style. And I'm very interested to see him interacting with this concept, because it'll give me a bit of eyes to see through. And then that'll help me get a better understanding of it.
And I think also one thing that I want to stress. Sorry, Len, go ahead.
Just real quickly, what I wanted to mention before also, and a nerd's nerd is also mentioning it, and Max, I think, has been very clear about this, that he's not describing it. You were asking, like, what's the benefit? It's not intended as this is a better approach.
Yet other people have referred to it as a superior form of playing. This has been put on the table, Len. This is something other people involved have said. Therefore, there is a somewhat, on some level, idea that this is better than 3D playing, as if we use the terminology.
Well,
Therefore,
all right,
it's
I'm going to
better.
push back on that. And I don't feel like Max has been pushing that.
I didn't say Max said that. Max has not said that, but others have.
So,
Yeah, but I'm the very reasonable guy.
Yeah, but you are a
I know
reasonable
for
guy.
one thing.
No. And when it comes to game design and game philosophy, you are
Yeah.
a very reasonable human being, and you think about these things on levels like you and Len should be friends, really, at the end of the day, because you both have a great deal of game design thought process that goes into things like this. But when it's being presented by other parties as a superior, I wish I could find the quote. I think it's already scrolled by.
Oh,
if
I'm
the person
sure
who said
you've
it
seen
earlier can put it again.
sure.
As a superior form of gaming, then my first question is, what's the benefit? How is it superior? How is it making the game better, hence superior, than what you define as 3D game?
And
All
I
right,
want
you
to
gotta
say
ask
something.
Bozo who
Like,
said that.
what I want to say, like when we talk about like those level of gaming and stuff like that, it's not like something that's gonna blow your mind, some evolution and stuff like that. It's just like an incremental step, right? Like people like don't make it too big of a deal, right? Just like when you're in 3D player, it's like when you're in 3D play, those are great game session, in my opinion. Those are very fun, right? It's just like if you just want to take it a little further, right? Now, okay, now we're gonna, now we cut all the question out of character and stuff like that. Now let's see if we can like keep the game like even more cinematic and more flowing with like cutting this little like meaningless interaction of like I look for stuff that is obviously there, right? That you like ask like probe, not like probing about the world in a sense for a thing that the answer is going to be yes, right? Just like if the answer is going to be yes,
Just go with
then
it.
you can just like skip it, right?
And that's fair. For those who are saying others can be full of shit, who cares what other people say? When it's the people who are the proponents of this style that they are developing and they're referring to it as a superior form of gaming, it matters what others say at that point in time. That matters because these are the people pitching the philosophy. It's one thing for Joe off the street to go, Nietzscheism is the best philosophy. It's another thing for Nietzsche to go, this is the best philosophy. There's a difference in that, right? And that's what matters to me. Now, as I have been saying all along, I'm not shitting on this. I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I'm trying to understand it. And this is the thing I've been trying to understand is this idea of superior style. Now, you've clearly said, Max, it's not superior. That's not what you're saying. You're saying it's more immersive. It's a different thing. It's an alternate form of play. And I get that. That makes more sense to me. Hence why the 1D, 2D, 3D, 4D automatically becomes a classification system of increasing value. Therefore, 4D is superior to 3D. So it's all of that tied up together that makes it confusing for me. And as I said, not 5 minutes ago, I'm going to have to see it in action to have a better understanding of it. Brian, you had a point you wanted to make.
Yeah, I think for me, it would come off better instead of presenting it as the gaming philosophy, the 4D gaming philosophy. I think it would be better received as more like in all the role-playing books where you get the page, what is a role-playing game, or how do you play this, and describing to a player, hey, here are different levels of what of how you can interact with the game. You can sit there and roll the dice. You can sit there and ask questions. You can sit there and make suggestions. I realize I'm wording it absolutely horribly. I'm just trying to kind of simplify it. I think that would be a better presentation as opposed to, well, I'm a fourth layer role player, wouldn't come off as well. So
Well, it's because like
I'm a 10th stage astro wizard clairvoyant. Yeah, we get it. Yeah, you were in a cult. Never mind.
Every time there's something that can be like somewhat like graduated, right? People are gonna say like anything. Oh, it's gonna be better if you like, but it's not necessarily the right thing to say, because if you say like if you hitchhike from Halifax, you want to go to Montreal, and I bring you all the way to Toronto, well, I bring you further than you want to be. Is that better? Not necessarily, right? It's not the destination you wanted to go, right? So you have to know where you want to go and when to depart, when to leave, right? Bring
For
you
the
further.
Americans in the audience, Halifax is further east than Montreal, and Toronto is further west. I know you think our country just starts and goes north forever, but
Yes,
Deep frost.
covered in snow.
Continue.
Look, and let's be clear, by the way. After a long and frustrating day of work, sometimes 2D gaming is sexy and hot. Just tell me where the monster is. I want to roll dice and kill a whole bunch of. I'm not looking to be to do Shakespeare. I'm not looking to be immersive. I'm looking. Where's the next? Whoo! Where's the adventure choo-choo going?
And sometime, you know, I'm with somebody, I'm not very into role playing game, but they're gonna humor me. We're gonna have like one session, one night. Yeah, we're just gonna fucking like stay 1D all the time. We're just gonna make joke. It's just an occasion. We get together, we catch up, whatever. That's fine as well. You know, like you said, sometimes you're tired, you want to work. People that are not like super involved in that hobby, but you like those people. You know, it's not about the. But it's just the like, I don't know why we do that, and like that's almost like part of the elitism. We always try to, because like if something can be categorized, now we obsess about which one is best. Well,
that's the nature of human hierarchies. That's the hierarchy of the human mind.
Fair. You fucking like wear like a boot size 15. Does it mean like you're better than me because I have like a smaller foot?
Yes. No, of course not. It means you can buy sneakers at the fucking store and I can't. I have to order mine.
Well, Max has the Max action figure has the disappearing beard thing.
That's 4D
action beard.
Action 4D beard dynamic super punch.
And I don't know if you can like if you go back a little bit higher, like Justin, like last comment by Justin, that he said because we did like a traveler game like that, and Justin was watching it and it was very enjoyable to play. No, was it? No, the other one. Oh, you made another one since? Oh, sorry, no, I'm not. But he's saying as a listener, like as a viewer, it's more enjoyable to listen to. Yeah, it's like those old radio show, right? And that's a side benefit because that's not why we do it. Because we're not doing that for an audience, right? It's not like we're not like playing to an audience. We're playing to ourselves. Like we're, like I always say, the player, not the audience, the co-creator. But in the same time, like we all like each other's audience, right? And but it's still like a marginal side benefit if you want. But if it's more enjoyable to listen to for people that are not at the table, for me it's also more enjoyable to listen to when I listen to my other player. Like even if I'm not in the scene right now, right, and they do something else, we split the party and stuff like that, I still have a good time listening to them, right? I'm just like I'm not pulled out by my phone and shit like that.
And I mean, it's probably worth mentioning. Look, there are a lot of apocalypse world game design and games that are like it, where not for everybody, but the design of that game, the idea behind it is when you're running the game, you set like who the characters who are involved, not the player characters, but like the characters are, and basically what's going on. But one of the tenets of gameplay for running the game is play to find out what's going to happen. And you're supposed to have a very, very loose idea, like what's happening now, but beyond like the second the game starts, you're like, and go. And the players do have a lot of control. And the intention is, I think part of the design philosophy is the game master is supposed to have as much fun and be as unsure about what's going to happen as the players are. And that's not for everybody. Not necessarily for me, to be frank, because I'm old and I'm from another time of gaming. But
I come from another time in space.
I remember when we used
to throw rocks in each other's head, and if you hit him in the head with the rock, it was a hit, and if you drew blood, it was a critical. But based on everything I heard tonight, I'm a 3.5D player or GM.
Yeah, it's not a bad place to be at all.
I don't feel this is fully beneficial, but I already do some of the stuff you're talking about as it is.
Like I consider myself like a 3D player. I think I'm a 3D. Like I aspire to go more to the 4D because I enjoy that and I like that. But I still, like I said, there's still some time like where I don't dare when I should have. Like I probed the world for something that was obviously there, right? And just because like, well, I got those instant, I want to respect the GM and stuff like that. But the GM just said yes, there is, right? Then that's almost like, well, maybe I didn't have to ask. I wanted just like.
I was gonna say I think most players and GMs are gonna, I wouldn't say they're gonna pick like one or the other or say, well, I'm 3.5. I think during a session
During a session, you go back and forth. Yeah.
Right, exactly. I think during a session you're going to be going back and forth, and then sometimes, as Len says, you're going to be like, I don't care. I'm going 2D. Just point me at the monster, and I'm going to start rolling dice. And sometimes you're just going to be there with your phone because you can't get into the game, but you need to be around your friends.
Right, but think about how annoying this is. Okay, think about how annoying this is. You're in 1D mode, Len's in 2D mode, Max is in 4D mode, and Cody's in 3D mode. The person who's going to be least annoyed by Max being in 4D mode is Cody in 3D mode. Meanwhile, you in 1D mode is going to be like, I don't give a fuck. I'm just going to
the one in 1D is going to be
2D mode. 2D mode is going to be like, for fuck's sake, can we go? Like,
why are we still shopping?
Why are we still in this room? I can see. Now, I could be wrong, and I often am, so I'm okay with that. Again, I need to see it play out to understand it better. Yeah. And I'm very curious as what's going to happen when Mr. Boivin is playing in my game. Because will there be a clash of 3.5 and 4? Will there be I go to the thing and I take the thing? No, there's no thing there. What are you talking about? Like, I mean,
I said, it's important to...
yeah. Sorry, what was that, Professor Len? What'd you say, Len?
His character's going to walk around with a club made of driftwood.
See, Dale, that was a good zinger.
No, I think it's important to like adapt yourself to the table you're at as well, right? So there's that as well, right? Just like so, you don't want to be a jerk, and you don't want to be like you try to avoid those clash, right? And like Brian said, it's very true. Like some day you're a little off, some day you're more in, some day you're that. Those are like. And it's never perfect, right? Those are kind of aspirations, kind of like goal. You can say we're gonna try to run this game in the 4D style, and you try, and then we know what kind of assumption you have. But you can also say, you know what, I'm not willing. I have like an idea what I'm gonna do. I'm not willing to let go of that control, so we're gonna remain in 3D. Or maybe as a player, you say, you know what, I'm not feeling very, like I'm not used to be in character that much, like, and then that's fine, right? You understand 2D and stuff like that. But if you find the place where you're comfortable, right?
Yep. Willpower. Yeah. No, I get it. I think I have a better understanding of it now. Like I said, I want to see it in action, and I will take umbrage with anyone who tries to tell me that this is the one true way or this is the elite form of gaming. I'll be like, go fuck yourself right away. I don't care who you are. You, Mr. Boivin, I'll be like, what shit do I do? Because I'm just not interested in that type of behavior in RPGs.
Exactly. That's what I was about to say. Like that's something I sometimes I try to stress, and maybe I don't do a good job at it. But like, this is like, it's gaming. It's like elf game. It's pretend, stuff like that. It's not like fucking life and death. Like it's not the way. It's not the place to be like one true way, right? It's preference. All of it is very subjective. Like you can say like, oh, this is the superiority of gaming. You have to understand this is always like for the person speaking, right? It's like, you enjoy it more that way. That's fine. Like I talk to people like the basic expert that's much more into the game side of thing. Like he likes to play like OD&D and stuff like that. Or like you look at the guy from the Bro SR. They have a very different view of what the superior way of gaming is, and they can be also very braggadocious about it, right? Like they talk with this. They talk this big game, and they but it's an act. You have to understand that, right? It's just like, don't take it too seriously. It's people online talking shit, right? It's shit talking online. Oh, my way is gaming. We already like, it's almost like those edition war, right? People like always saying, oh, you're playing like fucking AD&D 1E instead of like, whatever, right? Just like people always like thought about stuff that is meaningless.
No, I get that.
I'm not against doing that, but let's do it in good nature, and always understand that at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It's just fucking gaming.
This is my point.
Objective. It's not like, don't fucking make enemies out of it, right?
And don't make elitism out of it, and don't make us them out of it. That's the thing I don't want to see happen here. I don't want to see us them developing, because then that's
like, as long as it's like playful, playful elitism. Like I'm okay with it, right? you understand, like it's like, aha, I'm better, wink wink, like, yeah, all right,
Yeah,
I don't
but we
care.
can have that as a verbal conversation. We can't have
Yeah,
that as a typed conversation, and
that's
that's
true.
where the
Yeah.
breakdown happens.
Yeah.
Also, by the way, you pronounce big words much better than Brian, and English isn't even your first language.
But I struggle with the small one.
Yeah, the small ones
Bear
are
wo-
like fucking nightmare for you, but
English
it
way
is
better than my
aberrant.
French.
Your pronunciation.
Bear woke up and chose aberrant as his alignment.
I am aberrant. Apparently, I'm aberrant. I'm aberrant. But that's because I really like playing Palladium. It's my new game of choice, Brian. No, look, I am very interested in seeing how this plays out. I'm very interested in seeing how it rolls. I am very much cautious based on things I've heard and seen stated by some people, and I want to see how it unfolds. Again, clearly, and I say this without hesitation, if I start to see this turn into a elitism or a better than or an us them, I will have nothing to do with it, because I just refuse to be part of that. I don't like what's dividing us anymore. We've had too many years of being divided, and I want us to come together more and more and more. And that means adjusting some of my behaviors as well.
Yeah.
Hence why I'm saying, hey, Brian, let's play Shadowrun. Even though I've shit on Shadowrun for 2 years straight on this channel, I'm going to play Shadowrun at some point in time. If someone's willing to run it, I'll play it.
But I'd like to put a caveat to that, Bear, if
Sure.
you don't mind. Like, I'm okay with us being divided if it allows us to find the place we belong better, right? Like if the right table for us, right? We enjoy, like I said, this hobby is very wide, right? People enjoy the hobby in very different way, and sometimes it's difficult. Like there's some people that they play the game in a way that I won't enjoy that. I don't like what you're doing at the table is not for me. So in that sense, if we're divided, you can enjoy your thing. I'm all right with you. Doesn't mean I have to hate you or like even dislike you. I can even like you as a person, right? You can enjoy your thing on your side. I enjoy my thing on my side, and that's fine, right?
But if you're proselytizing that your thing is the superior thing, you're now fomenting the divide. You're now causing the divide, and that's not something that I'm accepting of, right? Like that's something I'm opposed to. As I find it aberrant. I find it even diabolical to a certain extent, because it's now ego getting tied up in the entire process, which is something that I think we need to be careful of. Now, again, I am not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. I make stupid statements all the time. I have opinions that are very wrong-headed and sometimes need to be adjusted. That's why I keep Len around, because Len's always here to school me, and make sure I understand the philosophy of everything in the universe, apparently. Florida, it gives you that insight, I guess, living in the heat. And Brian's here to remind me of, be positive. Don't just shit on things. Try and find the good in stuff. Cody's here as someone that I can, imagine driving and smoking and having the conversation with, where it's like, we might disagree, we might agree, but at least we're having a good conversation and the tunes are going to be fucking rocking. And there's some bikini babes in the back. You and I, Mr. Boivin, have had an interesting relationship as we've been getting to know each other, and it's been mostly around game design, philosophy, things like that. So that's why I'm very open to learning about this. That's why I'm very curious to see how it's going to go. I just have my hesitations. I have my concerns, and I want to see if they're assuaged or not. I want to see if they get addressed. And I hope I'm completely wrong. I hope all of my hesitations are absolutely just fucking the sky is falling chicken little bullshit. That'll make me much happier. But I gotta see. You know what I mean? Like when it comes to anything, I'm always from Missouri. Show me. That's where I live when it comes to this kind of stuff.
And like we're gonna have this game on Friday. I'm very excited for it. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. I can't wait to game with you, Cody. And there's also already this game that we've put on. You can see in my channel, on Crispy's channel, on Rick, and whatever. Everywhere, the Traveler game. I think it's a good game. You can go watch it now if you want, but like moderate your expectation. It's not gonna fucking blow your mind. You're still watching an actual play, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm not saying
three of them, and they all suck.
Well, exactly. Like a lot of actual play, like role-playing game is not supposed to be a spectator sport. It's something you engage in with, right? It's the whole point of that. It's like like I often say, like if I put like something on a T-shirt, which I did, is like, don't tell me a story, bro, right? Just like, I'm not here to be told a story. I'm here to co-create one, right? That's the whole activity. So when you're like watch the actual play, it's almost like a perversion of that, right? It's the total opposite. Now you're just watching there passively instead of being actively into the narrative creation. But you can watch this actual play that we did. Maybe it's gonna suck a little bit less than regular actual play. Maybe not. It's your call, right? But
well, everyone keeps referring to it as a radio play.
I don't want to present that. I don't want to present that like this, like 4D role play as like, oh, it's gonna fucking blow your mind. It's gonna second coming of like RPG Jesus and stuff like that. No, it's like a little thing that we change to make the game flow better for us and improve what we like about the game, right? And it might not be for you. That's fine. That's fair.
Yeah, no, and I get that, and I understand that. But I want to understand it. I want to really grok this whole thing. Now, every time someone says radio play, you have to understand. I worked in radio. I've done radio plays, and all I get in my head is, Fibba McGee and Molly show. Don't open that door, Fibba. And then we hear crashing sounds. Oh, and it's like, I don't think it's a good analogy, personally, just based on what I know of radio plays. But improvised storytelling, I get a lot better. Right now, I did a lot of fucking improv, and I see the benefits and the hindrances of improv. I think improv is a very useful tool, but again, much like logic is the beginning of understanding, improv is the beginning, not the end, and that's sort of a thing for me at that point in time. Brian, any final thoughts before we wrap this up because it's getting late?
No.
All right, thank you, Brian.
Sorry, squirrels are hitting hard.
That's okay.
I'm looking forward to the game tomorrow. The reason I haven't looked into any of this 4D stuff is because I just kind of want to experience it and see what they're talking about. I don't want to be polluted by any ideas. I'm just going to come into it with the mindset that I always come into it, except this time I'm really going to bring my A game in role-playing more than I usually do. Well, I always try to bring
my A game, motherfucker.
But I always bring my A game.
You run a game for him. How do you feel about that statement, Len?
I mean, you might as well just drive over and kick me in the nuts, dude. I mean, because I
always try to bring my A game, but tomorrow I'm going to be practicing. I'm going to be really like.
I've grown attached to Dr. Taylor. I'm very disappointed to hear that that's not Cody giving his best.
It usually is.
It's okay, Brian. It's okay because suddenly there's an opening in one of the Star Trek games. So get my
that's fine. No, I always try to bring my A game, but some nights you have an off night or whatever. But tomorrow I'm going to be mentally preparing myself.
Is it tomorrow or Friday the game?
Oh, it's Friday, Cody.
Friday. Sorry, tomorrow's Thursday. I'm mixing my days up.
That's all right.
But I'm really looking forward. I'm really looking forward to the game. The other thing I wanted to say was I don't typically like watching live plays either. Everybody calls them actual plays. I call them live plays.
Yeah, me too.
But I think the thing I don't like about live plays, and I don't want this to roll into a conversation, it's just a statement, is that they don't portray a real game at the table 98% of the time.
I agree.
But I do enjoy live plays that actually do. That's one reason I enjoy Bears games, because they feel like a natural game that you would watch at the table. And I think there is some benefit to watching those games because you can learn something new, right, from watching other people play, how they approach things. Just like Max is talking about this 4D style play. Well, you're going to learn something from watching us play Friday, because it's going to be a different style of play than what you're used to playing at your table. Everybody plays the game differently. So, but most of the time, live plays they're trying to entertain an audience as opposed to just playing the fucking game like they normally play. Mm-hmm. And I actually do enjoy watching live plays when people are just actually enjoying the game at the table. And I think there's some benefit from that. But unfortunately, I don't think most people play that way because they're very conscious that other people are watching and doing things. yeah, anyways, that was just a small statement I had to say. I don't want this to roll into a conversation again.
Too late. No, that's fine.
But I am looking forward to the game Friday. Always happy to play some World of Darkness. So it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, he get his A game. Look at that. Len, any closing thoughts on our B game status, you and I, sir? Wink, wink.
I totally get what Cody's saying. I understand. Max, it was a pleasure. I think this is the longest I've had to chat with you. So it's been a pleasure. Bear, as always, this has been another great conversation. Dale has been on fire in the chat, if you haven't seen.
I've been watching. I have this thing where I try and ignore Dale as much as possible.
But beyond that, I don't have any additional comment other than that this has been a really interesting conversation.
I agree. All right, Mr. Boivin, any final thoughts before we go through the shill rounds and then head out for the night?
No, thank you for inviting me tonight. I was glad to be able to explain a little bit more what I meant by that in that video that I posted today. And I'm glad that you found some interest in the concept and stuff like that, even though we don't agree, and say I agree with you. I don't want to present that as it's like the end all be all, and if you're doing that, you're shit. No, that's that's not what I believe.
No.
If other people present it that way, I think that's regrettable. But always take it with a grain of salt. It's always subjective.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, well, I'm gonna say, and I'll restate again directly into camera, I am not shitting on this idea. I do not think it is a bad idea. I do not think they are out to lunch. I just need to see it in action so I can understand it better. And I am open to the idea that I may learn some things from them that could even make me a better narrator for my games. Brian, shill your shit, please.
Gaming with ADHD, all sorts of tabletop gaming content from board games, role-playing, miniatures, pretty much whatever you want to talk about, or at least see what I'm talking about. Come, hang out, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Other than that, thanks, everybody. I love the Four Color Cafe. Pleasure to be here with you.
All righty. Cody, please shill away.
Yeah, I don't have much shill. I'm GM Cody. You guys know me. I think everybody in the chat knows me. I've got a little channel, and I just generally talk about old games I love, and reminisce and talk nostalgia. And there's a reason I do that, because I think a lot of these old games have merit and still have a lot of things to offer, even in our present day, and that they shouldn't be forgotten about, and that you should check them out. So it's not just me reminiscing nostalgia all the time. I actually think there is merit to a lot of these old games, and that they're actually still have a lot to bring to the table. So, go check out my channel, see what you think. I also love hearing people, I love interaction for people. Everybody, tells me, oh, I used to play that game back in 1979, or I played that game back in the 90s and stuff, and blah, blah, blah. And I love to hear from you guys. And I've had several viewers email me lately and talk to me personally, and made a lot of great friends. And I love that. You're welcome to email me personally. My email's up on my thing. And and then Sunday we are going to be continuing the AD&D. Well, it was OSC, but we're switching to AD&D second edition. We'll be continuing that game Sunday. So it should be a lot of fun.
All right, there you go. Len, anything we need to know about from you, sir?
Cody, I want to hear more about that Switch at some point, but we'll talk about that another time. But I definitely would love to chat with you about that more. So, in terms of, for me, you guys know that I write some games. Black Star is a sci-fi one. There and Hack Again, or By This Axe I Hack, are two. All those games are player facing, by which I mean to say the players make all the rolls, and the game master just kind of responds to what happens. I'm going to throw out one that's an old game that I wrote called The Narrative Toolbox, or TNT. It's very cheap, and I'm just throwing this out because it's a game all about when you make a roll, you roll to determine who gets narrative control. And I think it speaks directly to the kind of conversation we had today. And if anyone's interested in that kind of a game where your players and game masters basically narrate, and the game's all about who gets control of narration and how much, you want to take a look at that. It's by far the only game like that, but a different way to game. Anyway, that's all. Thanks so much.
Astro Zombie Len doesn't have a channel. He has a life. Unlike the rest of us. You can find him under Lakeside Games at Drive-Thru RPG, and I highly recommend you pick up his games. They're all very, very good. Except for this superhero game, it's not very heroic. All right, Mr. Boivin, anything you'd like to shill right now other than your channel?
No, just my channel, Reactionary Principle Gaming. Other than that, the whole conversation was about like some stuff I promote, so whatever.
There you go. As for me, Heroic will be dropping very soon. Shane and Dale are currently assembling the final cut of the playtest document that will be going up live as soon as I have it in my stubby thumbs, fingers and thumbs. And then in February, we're going to be going to Backer Kit, $15 for the PDF, $35 for the premium color soft cover, and $45 for the premium color hardcover, all through Drive-Thru RPG. We need to raise $5,000 to pay writers, layout, and artists. I don't get nothing other than the satisfaction of bringing a game to market for you all. And then, maybe I'll sell a couple of copies later and buy myself a pizza. Otherwise, thank you everyone for being here tonight on the panel. It was really great. Hungar, I know you had to bounce, but thank you for stopping by earlier. That was really fun to have you on. Everybody in the chat, awesome stuff as always. Good comedy, good insight, good everything. Really appreciate that. Keeps us going here for sure. And we'll be back next week with a surprise. And I'm not going to tell you what it is, but it's going to be a surprise. And also keep in mind on the 31st, we're going to be having Jim Johnson and Mike Dismuke, I think is how you pronounce it, from Modifius here to talk about the Star Trek 2D20 game. So that's going to be a fun one as well. Until next time when I see y'all, no live plays left this week, not until Friday next. So who knows what I'll do? Maybe I'll take some time off and not stream. Wouldn't that be? Peace, love, fuck you, Brian, and peace.
Night, everybody.
Dick.